The world changed, but it wasn't because of movements of the Earth's crust or volcanoes or anything like that. It was because of monsters. They suddenly appeared one day and almost destroyed the world. The thing that caused all these monsters to appear was the tower. It grants power and authority to the monsters, being called by some the Tower of Demons and by others the Tower of Gods. It was called that because gods and demons said that if you climb the tower, everything you seek and desire will be found on its floors. Strength, wealth, and honor. Climb the tower, impress us, and you will be rewarded accordingly. The tower has an enormous number of floors, reaching up to 999, and it is ruled by higher beings, gods and demons. Governments around the world tried to prevent people from reaching the tower, sending tanks and so on. But no one could stop those who desired to conquer the tower. As stated by the gods and demons themselves, anyone who tried to block access to the tower would be severely punished. For 5 years, the attention of billions of people around the world was fixed on the tower. A man with a fierce gaze says that the time had come to conquer, for the first time in human history, the 600th floor. He shouts at the people in front of him, asking if they intend to stop him, and calls them 9-star. 9-star are the only 9 players who managed to reach the pinnacle of the tower using the strength and power they gained by climbing its floors. A man says the other has lost his mind and warns the others to be careful. The other man was known as the Death Star or Black Star, and he told the others that death would be too little for them if they tried to stop his incredible journey. He wasn't superhuman or a weapons specialist, but he was known as the strongest of the 9 stars. Hyuk. Cho was the one who controlled the undead, the peak of mortality. He was the strongest necromancer alive and said he was tired of all that talk about peace for humanity. Looking at his opponents, he says he only wants power and that he'll make them monsters in his collection and become the strongest that exists. The leader of the other group says that, as expected, he betrayed humanity, while Che yells asking if he was really the traitor and tells the other to cut the nonsense. The other man then says they have no choice but to punish the necromancer Hyuk, the traitor. Driven by madness, the Black Star betrayed and attacked the Ninsters with his horde of undead. The group fought bravely against the monsters summoned by the Black Star, destroying his hordes. As he saw his monsters being defeated, he thought he couldn't handle all of them at once. Then, after decimating the horde of undead, they charged at Cha, saying he wouldn't escape punishment for betraying humanity. The Necromancer, once part of humanity, was consumed by a thirst for power and was pierced by the spears and arrows of the others. But in truth, this was only the story told to the general public. In reality, Hyuk never betrayed humanity. He was betrayed by the other 8 members of the Ninstar, and the truth was buried deep within the tower, and so 10 years quickly passed. Then we see an apartment full of dirty dishes with flies buzzing around. A person under the covers starts to wake up. He says to the Ninstars that he will return. He then wakes up with a jolt, cursing them as bastards. He then wonders where he is and soon realizes something in his mind saying it worked. Happy, the boy celebrates that his hidden ability worked. Soul transmission was the name of the ability. He could only use it once when on the brink of death, a magic that moves the soul to another body that is compatible. Analyzing his new body, he thinks that the magic indeed found a body with a similar physique to his and that it still seems to be in Korea. With hatred, he clenches his fists, mentally cursing the Ninstars again. The man then thought that he was more than strong enough to conquer the 600th floor alone, and they still betrayed him when he offered to collaborate with them. Then he remembers his last moments when he asked what he had done to deserve that, and someone asked him if he wanted to know why they betrayed him. The Paladin Cain Fallon and the Saint Carmen Fallon say that he won't be able to summon his little monsters in that sacred zone. Carmen then says that he was known as the one-man army, and that without his little army, he was no match for them. Panting heavily, the Necromancer says that he only wanted to help others. The Paladin then says not to take it personally because they have nothing against him. With an evil smile on his face, he says they just want a new beginning. The Necromancer then asks if they tricked Choi Kyung-hoon too. Choi was his closest friend and a Ninstar warrior who hadn't even participated in the conquest of the 600th floor. Choi then understands that they didn't even warn Choi in case he tried to help the Necromancer, since they were friends. Then his vision starts to blur and he thinks it's because he's already lost too much blood. He then says that he will lose to them this time, but his hand starts glowing with energy. Bringing his glowing hand to his chest, he thinks that it won't be the last time they hear about him. He will come back stronger than before, and then he will make sure they pay the price for betraying him. Then, already in his new body, he says he will crush their souls so hard they will never reincarnate and will turn them into undead puppets. Suddenly, his cell phone starts ringing under the covers. He then starts looking for the phone and grabs it. Finally, he notices that it's a smartphone. The boy thinks it's cool to have one again after not being able to use one inside the tower. Something on the phone makes him surprised. Then he sees that the year is 2023 and realizes that 10 years have passed. To him, it feels like it was just yesterday that he was betrayed by the other 9 stars, and he wonders what the hell is wrong with that damn ability. A question then arises in his mind: can he use magic with that body? While standing there wondering that mentally, the flies in the apartment fly around him. One passes near him and is completely crushed by the boy's hands. With the dead fly in his hands, he tells it to rise. Nothing happens while he tries to remember the right word. Then, concentrating on the magic word, he says rise. However, nothing happens and the phone says that it has search results for the phrase rise. The boy starts yelling at the fly, asking it to rise, wake up, get up, and so on, but nothing happens. He is shocked to find out that he has absolutely no mana in his body. Opening the window, he thinks that can only mean one thing. The tower is still there and he thinks he will have to climb that damn thing all over again with absolutely nothing. Then, picking up his cell phone, he wonders, since 10 years have passed, those bastards who betrayed him must have become complete rulers of the tower. Checking the news, he stops at one that says Choi Kyung-hoon dominated the 800th floor of the tower. He becomes serious while thinking that those damn ninsters only managed to advance 200 floors in 10 years. The Necromancer then thinks that's good for him because while they're going slowly, he can climb the tower and crush them all into pieces. Then he thinks that doing any training outside the tower is useless anyway. He's going to the tower right now. His body may still be that of a novice, but he has the mind of the Death Star Cha Jin-hyuk and will use all of his experience to get strong as fast as possible. He'll have his revenge against the Minsters soon, he thinks. Then we see the entrance to the Seoul Tower. Several people are heading towards the tower with promises of wealth and fame. The tower is seen as a collection of dreams and desires from various lives. A stairway leading inside the tower approaches. In one of the rooms, there is a coffin in the middle, half open. Inside that coffin, a skull with glowing eyes and small glasses seems to be waking up, with smoke coming out of its mouth. Elsewhere, a forest is burning. We see someone clearly running, fleeing. The woman with small horns cries as she runs out of the forest. Someone flips a gold coin into the air. We see piles and piles of gold coins as a man tosses coins into the air. In a city, a two-tailed cat strolls calmly down the empty street. On another street in that city, we see a man in black robes and a black horn walking down the street. He looks worried, thinking about something. The entrance to the tower opens precisely at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Someone then announces that the gate is open and tells everyone to prepare. The Necromancer and the other people around him start running to enter the portal. Then he finally thinks that it is the beginning of his revenge. As soon as all the participants enter, the door closes behind them. A voice greets him while he thinks that it has been 15 years since the first time he set foot there. The system's voice warns that he is in a tutorial area. He thinks it's a huge scam because there is nothing tutorial about that place, and that it is by far the hardest part of all. The boy remembers that it is a maze full of traps and that everyone agrees it is the most annoying place to pass, at least before the 10th floor. The system shows a screen saying that his life will be restored at the start and end, and that the goal is to reach the finish line while avoiding traps. Then he thinks that first he has to get to know the body his soul ended up inhabiting, and saying this, he opens his status window. Seeing his stats, Chet concludes that the body is horrible. He notices two things that catch his attention, a skill called predation and the body being infused with mana. Recognizing them, he thinks these are things he had before and that they might be linked to his soul. Then he starts stretching in preparation to cross the maze. He then thinks that he will try to gain as much experience as possible during the tutorial. Our hero then jumps and starts running through the maze. Right after taking the first steps, the system says he left the starting area and that the magic arrow trap has been activated. The Necromancer skillfully dodges the arrow while continuing to run. Smiling, he thinks that he can still see arrows at the moment they are fired and that it's the same trick as before. Suddenly, 5 arrows glow behind him. Laughing, the boy says that this welcome is a bit excessive. Running, he manages to outpace the speed of the arrows. Then, unable to see the other arrows in front of him, 2 hit him and 1 cuts him. Bleeding, he says not yet, just a little further to reach the finish line. The black sky starts to glow red with a number of magical arrows about to be launched at him. He is hit by a barrage of arrows all over his body. Despite looking like a porcupine with so many arrows stuck in him, he is still standing. The Necromancer continues running, thinking that it hurts but that he must keep going. Taking 2 steps forward, the world starts to darken quickly. Almost unconscious, he keeps walking, leaving pools of blood along the way. She then falls after crossing the finish line. As promised, upon crossing the finish line, his life is restored and he starts waking up. Getting up, he wonders if that is all he can endure for now and thinks about how much it hurt. Of course, he didn't just run recklessly without a plan. There are 2 skills that allowed him to be the best player in the world. One of them is predation, and saying this, he touches the ground with his own blood and licks it. He says that predation allows him to consume any object or being that has died and absorb their attributes. The blood that was spilled on the ground starts to flow back into him. Then, absorbing his own blood, he thinks that all of it should return to him as experience. The system shows that he gained 1 point in all stats and some tolerances to bleeding, penetration, pain, and fainting. Seeing that he gained some resistances, he thinks that he might be able to endure all basic attacks without any equipment. He then thinks that it usually takes about a week for a good player to finish the tutorial. He continues saying that he will finish the tutorial by taking absolutely all the arrows, and that way his stats will increase insanely. He will keep going this way until he maxes out his tolerance levels. We then see his status window with his tolerances gaining points and the bar filling more and more. A month passes and we see our Necromancer. with blood coming out of his mouth and a tired but determined look. Full of arrows stuck in his back and blood spread everywhere, he finally reaches the front of the final portal. The system then says he has completed the tutorial, while he says it took much longer than he thought going back and forth like that, and wonders if the whole month really passed. A new system window appears before him. The window says that many of the gods and demons are interested in his methods. Sighing, he says there they are again. He then yells, calling them weirdos and asking if they were spying on him again. The weight of the gazes of many gods and demons falls upon him. Chan thinks that they are always keeping an eye on potential prodigies, while system messages show that some gods disliked his words while others liked them. Then he says that none of them are offering divine wisdom and that they are probably just looking for a new apostle, and that there's no reason to recruit him just for the tutorial. The system then, in a window, says that a Diablo is smiling as the screen slowly turns red. The apex of malevolence greeted him with a casual, "How are you?" The Necromancer quickly recognizes him and calls out to Baal, cursing him as a damn stalker. Baal, also known as the apex of malevolence, is the demon who kept trying to turn him into an apostle in his past life, and wonders if he has been recognized. He remembers that it was Baal who helped him obtain the soul transfusion ability and says that the skill was very well used. Some messages begin to appear from gods and demons who are interested in him. Then he blames Baal for drawing so much attention to him. Baal's red window then says it apologizes for the commotion. Several windows appear, one of them from the god of thunder who wants to talk to him privately, and another from the Monkey King who liked him and asks everyone to leave him alone. He asks if he looks like someone who works for others and says that if they are going to chase him, they should do it quietly and shut up. Baal says he is sad while his window curves slightly downward. Chen directly tells Baal that even if one day he becomes an apostle of someone, he would never be his, and tells him to stop dreaming because it will never happen. Then, with his hands full of blood, he says that now it's time for his rewards. He then sucks up all the blood he spilled in the last room back into himself. We see in his status window that all of his tolerances have been maximized. His stats are then all updated with attribute points and his new tolerances. He thinks that it's hard to get mana at that stage, but thanks to his mana-infused body, his stats increased a lot. The system then shows that he has a new skill to unlock. He then ponders what skill it could be since he already has predation. In his skill window, he sees a second one with several question marks and wonders if that's the one the system is informing him about. Then he thinks that skill must be a new one, coming from the body he reincarnated into. The name of the new skill is Jack of all trades. He wonders what the hell kind of skill that is and clicks on the system to see more information. The description says that the skill makes him good at everything, receiving proficiency bonuses while training and providing additional modifiers based on proficiency during battles. Smiling, he thinks that it's wonderful that he really might be able to achieve something with that. The title he prepared for a long time but failed to acquire, called Master of All Things or Almighty. Baal sends another message saying he wants to see his status window. He then screams at Baal, asking what the hell is that. The Necromancer turns his back to Baal's window, telling him to stop bothering him. He then says that he is going to the next floor, and then if Baal wants, he can follow him. Baal says he is pretending to be chasing after him. Passing through the portal, he enters the selection and training room. The system welcomes him to the selection and training room and says that here he will have the chance to choose his weapon and occupation. The system finishes by informing him that once he makes his choice, he should break the room to access the first floor. He then thinks that in his past life he didn't even consider any occupation other than magic because of his mana-infused body. Then he picks up a bow and thinks he wants to see how good the Jack of all trades skill really is. The system then, at Cha's request, creates practice targets while he picks up the bow and an arrow. He then aims at one of the targets and pulls an arrow on the bowstring. Shooting 3 arrows in a row, he hits the center of the target all 3 times. He asks the system to create more targets and, if possible, make the targets attack him. The system then says that aggressive targets can be dangerous, and he still doesn't have an occupation. Smiling mischievously, Che says that it's no problem. Then 5 humanoid targets are created by the system. A window shows that the practice targets will now see the player as something hostile, and they start running towards him. Again, shooting 3 arrows at once, he hits the center of the target's heads. The other 2 rush past and get close to our hero. Then, they are cut in half. We then see a sword emitting smoke from being swung so fast. Our boy, stabbing the sword into one of the dummies, tells the system to make the targets stronger. The system says that the target's level has increased and that it will create giant targets too. Suddenly, the giant target looks up and sees the shadow of the Necromancer falling towards it. Then the boy with the giant spear pierces straight through the giant practice target's head. Next, he draws 2 daggers. He throws them backwards blindly and hits the heads of the other 2 summoned targets dead on. Flying targets appear behind him, but our hero notices them. Looking back, he sees that the targets are long-range practice dummies. They shoot at Cha, who uses the giant target's body to shield himself from the energy blasts. The system warns that these are the most dangerous targets that can be created on that floor as our boy runs towards the weapons. Laughing, our hero asks if these are really the strongest they got. Looking at a staff, he says he will match them using his specialty. He grabs the staff and looks at the long-range flying targets. They attack mercilessly, launching energy blasts at Cha. Smiling again, our Necromancer says he is faster than they are. Pointing his staff forward, he conjures magic arrows. The arrows hit the targets, causing 3 small explosions upon impact. He then thinks that this is the power of Jack of all trades, that every weapon he picked up felt like he had used it for years. Then another window appears, showing that he acquired a new achievement. The achievement is called Almighty, and it consists of using at least 1 weapon from each available category in the tutorial and unlocking the Almighty occupation. He then wonders if Almighty wasn't just a title but actually an occupation. The system then asks if he wants to choose the Almighty occupation and warns that he won't be able to change the selection after leaving the room. He thinks that Almighty is cool and all, but he cannot abandon his main occupation. So he tells the system that he will use Almighty as his sub-occupation. The system then throws a message at him saying, "Impossible." Shocked, Cha asks why he can't do that. Then the system says that sub-occupations are only possible after reaching the 100th floor, and he remembers the rule. He cannot leave that room without choosing an occupation and wonders whether he should use the 5,000 merit points he just earned. Then he wonders if it's impossible to unlock sub-occupations using merit points. The system shows him a big question mark and then asks how a beginner could know all that. Merit points are a type of currency the game rewards for completing various activities and can be used to make changes in the game. Cha tells the system that it doesn't matter how he knows and asks if it's possible to use his 5,000 merit points to unlock a sub-occupation early. The system then says that it is possible, but he can't. It then shows the system window with the merit points he has and how many he needs to unlock the sub-occupation, and he is literally 50 points short. Right after that, he says there's no other way and tells Baal that he's going to sell him a little. Then he says that Baal approached and revealed his identity to him, which should have an achievement related to talking to a god for the first time. Suddenly, a new system window appears saying that communicating with Baal, the apex of malevolence, is worth 200 merit points for the achievement. Then Baal's window appears with hearts, and he asks if he did well and pretends to act cute, while Cha asks him never to do that again. The system then asks if he wants to spend the merit points to enable Almighty as a sub-occupation, and he says yes. The system then congratulates him for choosing Almighty as his sub-occupation, but his main occupation is still empty. Then the system says that he must break the room if he wants to proceed to the first floor, and our boy says fine and starts charging his staff. Smiling, he says that it's time for him to officially start his revenge. He slammed the charged staff on the ground, with energy flying from the staff in all directions. First floor of the tower, Coral Forest. Goblins prepare to attack a group ahead of them. One of the men complains about how they are supposed to climb the tower if the first floor is already this difficult, while another man carries a woman on his back. A kobold then jumps forward to attack the group. The warrior carrying the woman gets scared. The sky begins to crack above them. Then, our hero falls towards the ground with a smile on his face. Flying towards the kobold, he says that there is his first prey. He crashes down on the kobold's head, smashing it into the ground. Then he is surprised and says that kobolds are a nice way to welcome him. The other two get angry and start growling. With his staff on his shoulders, our hero smiles mischievously and looks at the enemies. Then he asks what he might gain if he devours all of them. The warrior thinks that what the other did was incredible, defeating the kobold with a single attack. He continues analyzing and thinks that the boy looks like a mage, but he defeated the monster with a kick. The group member with 2 daggers says that he doesn't know who he is, but they should fight together, and that if they combine forces, they can easily defeat them. Our boy, however, tells them to stay away. The group looks dumbfounded, asking what he said. Our hero also says that if he touches any of them, he will kill them too, and asks if they understand. The group starts trembling with fear and stands frozen, still not understanding what was happening. After a few seconds of silence, they say yes, that they will leave, and start walking in the other direction. The 2 kobolds in front of him start screaming and growling, seeing the others leave. With a devilish look, he asks the kobolds if they want to seek revenge for their companion. The 2 kobolds then charge at the Necromancer. The first has his skull crushed by our hero's staff as soon as he gets close. The second stands still, and our boy asks what he's doing and if he's not going to attack him. Suddenly, the kobold turns around and starts running toward the forest. Then, pointing and charging a spell in his staff, he asks the kobold if he thinks he's going to escape. A magic arrow pierces through the kobold's chest, making him fall to the ground instantly. A system window appears welcoming him to the first floor, while he says the system is late because he's already collecting the spoils of battle. Another window says he must complete a quest to advance to the next floor, which is to hunt 10 kobolds, and our hero finds it easy and says he can easily hunt 100. Then he thinks that since he's here, he might as well go for the assassin title. Going back to his memories, he almost got the assassin title for almost every monster, and you get the title by killing 1,000 of each monster. Priorities are priorities, and our hero needs to fill his stomach first. Then he uses his predation skill. One of the kobolds rises, and its energy begins transferring to our hero. When he finishes absorbing one of the kobolds, he thinks he can see its memories. And his power has now become our hero's, along with learning the kobold language as a bonus. Opening his status window, he notices that his attributes have increased greatly, and that he is at the level of someone who has already ascended 10 floors. Then he wonders if he receive an occupation bonus, and if, because he is almighty, he might gain more class experience. And then he sees a memory from the kobold he just absorbed. He starts running towards a cave. A human is protecting a child while the kobold thinks he must prepare him quickly because it hurts when he is reprimanded. A kobold shaman or mage stands ahead as he says that the preparations are complete. Looking closer, he realizes it is the kobold lord. Smiling slightly maniacally, our hero celebrates the perfect timing of his arrival. A monster with a lord status means that a monster wave is coming, which means he can get the assassin title and farm a little too. Sure then says that if he's about to face a monster wave, he'll need an army. So he begins to raise the kobolds he defeated to fight alongside him as undead. He commands them to rise, and magical waves lift the bodies of the defeated kobolds. Next, both lose the flesh from their bodies, leaving only bones. A system window appears congratulating Cha and saying that he changed his occupation to Necromancer on his own. Cha says that changing his occupation is nothing, since he has the memories of his past life and the sub-occupation of Almighty. Then he thinks that he's still not satisfied and that there's a hidden occupation he needs to unlock right there on the first floor. One of his skeletons suddenly looks to the side, and he notices, asking what happened. Another kobold is lying on the ground, trembling. Behind it, there are 3 more kobolds growling and snarling at Cha. He then orders his skeleton army to hunt and kill all kobolds they see. The 2 kobold skeletons then start walking toward the 4 living kobolds and attack, throwing a kobold stone into the air with his small skeleton army, and his mission progress saying he killed 10 out of 35. He says that something should be around there. Finally, he finds a house in the middle of the forest. He then slowly opens the old door and thinks he's lucky that no one has been there yet. Entering the house, he tells his skeletons to wait for him there. Stomping hard on the floor, the ground breaks open, revealing a huge hole with a staircase leading underground. While going down, he says that there is a secret occupation on the first floor. He continues ascending the stairs while torches light up on pillars to illuminate his path, and he keeps throwing kobold stones down the steps. He continues saying that it's a superior occupation from Necromancer capable of handling souls called Spirit Master. Then he arrives at a room with a large coffin in the center. Dropping the sack of kobold stones on the floor, he says that the first Spirit Master and the instructor for class change are hidden right there. Arriving beside the coffin, he pushes the lid, opening it. As soon as he opens it, a skeleton floats above the coffin. Our hero calls him Balkan while waiting for his appearance to finish. The skeleton then asks if he is his successor. Cha thinks it's been a long time since he saw Balkan and shows a mischievous smile. The skeleton remains in front of him waiting for an answer. After a few seconds, Balkan asks if he's not surprised to see him, and our boy asks if a necromancer should be surprised to see a skeleton. Besides, he ended up there after reading his diary and that he stopped being surprised by things like in a long time ago. The hidden item in the diary of the Spirit Master Balkan. It's obvious he hasn't read it yet in this life. In his past life, he found it while gaining knowledge and magic, and after reading it, he returned to the first floor. He tried to become a Spirit Master himself, but he failed to turn Balkan into one of his summons. The skeleton then says that he made a good point and that he likes him. Laughing, he says that he's definitely better than that idiot from 10 years ago, while our hero trembles without even blinking. Offended, our boy wonders if he should kick him. Then he thinks it's better to change the occupation first and tells the skeleton that he wants to change, but Balkan says he needs to have climbed to the 10th floor first. Balkan starts explaining that Spirit Master is a class above Necromancer and that he could change it on the 10th floor, but our hero interrupts, saying that he's already a Necromancer. He then shows his status window, proving he is already a Necromancer. The skeleton shouts at him, saying he has great potential and is surprised that he changed his occupation before the 10th floor. Balkan comments again that he is absurdly better than that idiot from 10 years ago, leaving our hero clearly offended. Calmly, our boy asks if he's going to change his occupation or not, and the skeleton apologizes, saying he got too excited. Sho then sits down in front of him, and the skeleton starts casting a magic circle around him. A ball of energy appears in front of our boy as he concentrates. Since a long time ago, even before the tower appeared on Earth, he was a tower climber. Obviously, he was the strongest necromancer of all and still sought more power. He thought that summoning creatures of flesh and bone was insufficient and wondered if he could summon something stronger. He wanted to develop entirely new summons, different from vampires and death knights. Then he came to the obvious conclusion: souls. The idea was to manipulate directly the souls of the recently dead beings. New summons that will be greater and better than the current ones may emerge. He then succeeded in creating a new occupation called Spirit Master. However, his senile body reached its limit and the existence of Spirit Masters was on the verge of extinction, so he opted for something unexpected. He used one of his spells on himself and hoped that his successor would one day return and restore his honor. Because of this, Balkan became a kind of being similar to an NPC, looking for players who want to follow in his footsteps. The ball of energy shining in front of our hero merges with him while Balkan is surprised. The skeleton says that the rude boy from 10 years ago was the second, and that he would be the third spirit master in history. He then says that our boy can use the soul crucible to absorb souls as well as summon them. With a maniacal smile, our hero thinks that he will use the crucible that Balkan gave him, and that he will absorb him first. This time, Che is prepared and will not fail again, while the skeleton congratulates the boy and tells him to spread his name everywhere. Cha, smiling, says that about that, he has other plans. Then he points at Balkan and tells him to do it himself. The skeleton is left confused about what he meant by that. He then yells at the boy and asks if he forgot the promise written in the diary. Our boy says that delegating his task to others is not healthy while approaching Balkan, who asks why he is getting closer to him. As he gets close, our boy uses the soul harvesting skill. Balkan is hit head-on as his soul begins to leave his skeletal body. Then he starts asking if the boy thinks he will be caught by a novice. Still smiling, our boy thinks that he got him. The skeleton shows his middle finger to our hero and says that this is how they curse on Earth, that his previous pupil had taught him that. While running to escape, the skeleton crashes into an invisible barrier. After suffering the impact, he slowly slides to the ground. Then he finds himself sitting in the middle of a magic circle and asks if that is magic. Our hero asks if he is comfortable there. He says that this is his own little prison made with a low-level magic called a magic wall. Balkan starts hitting the wall, asking if our hero thinks he will get away with this low-level magic. Still smiling, he says that it's not just one though. He says that he spread several kobold magic stones along the path and used magic on each of them. Then he says that the wall is indeed easily broken, but doubts that Balkan will be able to break them all before he can absorb him with soul harvesting. The skeleton then wonders who the hell he is. Being just a first-floor player, how could he have learned all that? He then says that he failed in his previous life, but now he will finally succeed. Then Balkan understood. Using the phrase previous life, he finally understood. Our hero says that he is still the second spirit master and asks if he should call himself the second or third. The skeleton then screams our boy's name, Che Jin-yuk. Once again, Che uses the soul harvesting ability. Finally, he manages to absorb Balkan's soul. The skeleton, once inhabited by Balkan's spirit, stands frozen. Our hero pats his chest twice and tells Balkan not to worry, that he will be able to achieve and do everything he wants as long as he is by his side. Che walks toward his army of kobold skeletons. Cistern windows appear, saying that Bale is watching him and the Death Guardian is curious about his occupation, while our hero smiles, leaving them curious. Still smiling, he says out loud that there's no reason for them to cry. He will show his occupation soon anyway. They just have to wait. He then gets very close to his skeleton army and observes them. Looking at them, Che wonders if he still needs a skeleton army now that he is his spirit master. He then raised his hand and destroyed his small skeleton army. Then, focusing on his spirit master powers, he commands them to rise. The souls of the kobolds emerge from their chests while he shows a huge smile on his face. The ghostly kobolds dance around him as their souls reform, returning to their original form. Then Che says that as expected, they still can't speak yet. Suddenly, someone behind him calls his name. A man is then crouching down and asks him how. Looking him in the eyes, the man asks how he dares to turn him, Balkan, into a soul knight. Smiling wickedly, our hero says he never saw him that way and that he must have been quite handsome when he was young. Then, extremely irritated, Balkan shouts, saying that he will not get away with doing that to him, and asks how he dares to act superior to the first master of souls. Suddenly, the spirit feels something in his throat. As he falls, choking, Che explains that he is only breathing thanks to his mana, and that if he cuts off the mana, he disappears immediately. Kneeling, Balkan asks our hero if he thinks he will simply accept and obey his orders. Our hero gets very close to his face and asks what he will do about it then. He then tells Balkan to remember what he used to do with disobedient summons, and says that he turned them into soul knights. Che asks, while licking his lips, if the spirit had forgotten about his main ability. The spirit then thinks that he still has that powerful ability, and that it means he would be devoured. He then gives up and says fine, asking what the boy wants, while Che asks if he can't feel anything. Pointing to a castle on a nearby hill, he says they are about to start a suppression. Then he adds that they will be doing it against a kobold lord. At the castle gate, 2 kobolds stand guard with their spears. Suddenly, they spot our hero calmly walking towards them. Both guards stop and ready their spears for combat while speaking something to him in the kobold language. Displaying his maniacal smile once again, Che begins to be surrounded by energy. Then he releases the spirits of the kobolds trapped in his body. The spirits immediately attack the 2 kobolds in front of him. Meanwhile, our boy enters the kobold castle with his army of kobold souls behind him. Looking up, he sees the city's protected wall full of kobolds waiting for him. As the kobolds begin to jump down to attack him, he thinks he has 30 kobold soul knights and that the monsters don't stand a chance against him. Bending down to pick up a spear, he thinks that this time he won't just stand and watch. He then tells the kobolds to take him to their lord and calls them weaklings. We then see the ceiling of a cave crack and dust fall. The kobold lord is doing something at his workbench. He then asks if there is an intruder. The lord begins to walk and tells them to have the offerings prepared, and one of the guards salutes him in confirmation of his order. One of his spirit knights roars in anger. Next, he passes through the bodies of 3 kobolds and comes out the other side. The The three then scream without understanding what is happening. Our hero grabs a kobold by the head, making a motion to twist the monster's neck. And in the next second, he snaps the beast's neck with a twist. A square hole opens in the wall behind our hero. 3 kobolds jump to attack Cha from behind. However, the spirit knights were on standby and eliminated the kobolds who tried to attack our boy from behind. He then picks up the sword from the first kobold who attacked him and uses it to eliminate 3 more kobolds in front of him. Seeing the bodies of those he defeated, he says that his hidden occupation is really quite good, while 2 of his soul knights surround him. Then he feels a different energy somewhere behind him. Smiling, he thinks he is close to the kobold lord's room. Baal sends a message saying that he is holding light rods and cheering for our hero. Cha then sighs, saying he doesn't need the support of an old man with hairy legs. With 2 of his spirit knights walking beside him, he says he won't need cheering because he will win anyway. Then we see the kobold lord stabbing something with a knife. As the blood flows, a red energy runs through the kobold's body as he says he wants more. Shortly after, he shouts saying they still need much more to keep their lord satisfied, the guardian of death. As the lord asks if the kobolds have brought the next offering, one of the kobolds drags someone who tells him to let her go. Next, we see 2 kobolds dragging a woman with small horns as they wonder if it is what they are thinking. The girl then opens one of her eyes and sees that it is a hobgoblin. The lord then, holding the girl's hand, shows a smile and says they found gold and that she is a much better offering than any human. Something flies between the girl's hand and the kobold's hands, making him let go. The lord then looks up the balcony and sees our hero while saying that must be the intruder, as we see a sword stuck into the ground between him and the woman. Smiling wickedly, our boy asks what is happening there, whether it is a sacrificial offering or human sacrifices. He then says himself that it doesn't matter what it is, it will fail either way. The kobold lord then asks if he is the invader. He then curses him, calling him a bastard intruder. Our hero then says that he must be the kobold lord and insults the monster, saying he really does look like the leader of a bunch of weaklings. Offended, the kobold says his name is Kaloon, king of all kobolds, and demands more respect. Still with a wicked smile, our boy says he is quite arrogant for a first-floor monster and tells him to earn the respect he asks for. The girl thinks she still hasn't quite understood the situation, but the kobold lord seemed distracted by that human. Thinking that this was her chance, she prepares to run. As she gets up and starts running, the kobold lord asks how an offering dares to run and try to escape. The lord then begins concentrating red magic in his hand and asks his lord, the guardian of death, to grant him power and strength. Cha then picks up the words guardian of death from the kobold lord's speech. He then uses a skill called body spears and makes 2 corpses fly toward the fleeing girl. In her haste, the girl trips over a stone on the cave's uneven floor. She begins falling toward the ground, her eyes wide open. The girl hits the ground and sees the body spears quickly approaching. Begging, she thinks and pleads that she can't die there. Our hero then makes his first move. He arrives just in time to deflect the body spears with his hands and feet. The kobold lord is startled seeing the boy block his attack with just a kick. The girl starts to thank him, but our boy cuts her off and tells her to stop talking and start running away. He then notices the girl's horns and asks if she is a hobgoblin. Then he remembers that hobgoblins are a powerful tribe residing on the 100th floor and that they have no reason to descend to lower floors, especially a young hobgoblin like her. Our boy wonders if something happened on the 100th floor and thinks he will save her and question her later to get information. The kobold lord then screams, asking how a boy like him dares to interrupt a ritual offering to him. Our hero tells the hobgoblin to stay away from there because he doesn't want to have to save her again, and she says yes and starts leaving the room. He then tells him to try and stop this because living bodies have double the power, while with his hand he infuses the 2 kobold corpses with energy. Then their bellies begin to swell and the lord shouts the name of his skill, body explosion. Cha manages to dodge the 2 nearby body explosions. He then begins preparing a punch, saying to the kobold that he is too slow. Landing a full punch on the kobold lord's face, he says the creature is terrible at using its mana. As he is launched meters backward by the force of the punch, the kobold thinks about how a first-floor player could have that kind of strength. Suddenly, the boy appears in front of him, asking what he was doing and saying that he was just getting started as he prepared another punch. He then screams for his lord, the guardian of death, to save him. Then the blood that was behind the kobold lord begins to bubble. Soon after, the blood explodes, forming a column of blood. From this column of blood, an arm emerges and grabs Cha's hand. Then we see a monster made of blood holding our boy. Our hero thinks that it is a blood golem and wonders how on earth he was able to summon such a high-level monster. The monster starts squeezing our boy's right arm while he begins to feel the pain. Then the monster throws him to the ground, crushing him under its palm. The kobold lord starts laughing and asks him how he feels now. While the golem held the boy on the ground, the kobold said that this was the pinnacle of his necromantic abilities. The boy then asks if he heard correctly and he said those were necromantic powers. Then, getting irritated, he asks who he thinks he is to try to use his necromancy. Meanwhile, some spirit knights begin to appear around our boy. Shouting, our hero says he will show the kobold what real necromancy is, as several of his spirits are flying around him above. The spirits then begin to enter the blood golem. The golem starts to writhe and swell. Suddenly, Chan's spirits explode the golem from the inside out, scattering blood all over the room. The kobold lord then stands with his mouth open at the power of our hero's spirits. As our boy stands up with blood raining down, the kobold thinks that he defeated his monster so easily. Then Che says that even though he is a lord, a mere kobold like him couldn't possibly summon a blood golem. Our boy then says it's Boone's fault, the guardian of the dead, as a window appears showing the guardian is surprised. The guardian just waves without saying a word while Bale is glaring at Boone. Then the boy continues, saying that it was Boone who got curious about his strength when he changed his occupation to Spirit Master and summoned the blood golem. He then goes on telling the kobold that he is simply a toy who knows nothing and says that he has no mana because Boone forced him to summon a golem out of nowhere. Then he shouts that it's nonsense, that his lord will come after him and take revenge even if he dies. Our boy then tells him to say all of that to his lord and mentions he also has a few things to say while sending his spirits to attack the kobold. He screamed for the spirits to let him go, that he was their king, and told them to remember while the spirits grabbed and dragged him. The spirits lifted him into the air while our hero stretched out his hand toward him, and he screamed for his lord, the guardian of death, to help him. Then our boy tells Boone that this was the end of his little toy and that it's his own fault for provoking him, so he shouldn't get upset. And then he says that Boone will also eventually pay the price for trying to test him. A system window appears with the guardian of death laughing loudly and saying he liked the boy. Then Che closes his hand, causing his spirits to attack and break the bones of the kobold lord. The kobold lord's body falls against the container that stored the offering blood. Our hero starts approaching the body and asks if he is dead. The spirit of the kobold lord begins to emerge from his body. Cha, seeing his spirit trying to leave, grabs it and says he won't let him die and rest in peace so easily. While he squeezes and crushes the kobold's spirit, the hero says for him to calm down because he still has a few functions to fulfill. Soul Army Formation is a basic skill that allows him to round captured souls to facilitate absorption. He then takes the struggling and screaming kobold soul to his mouth, wishing himself a good meal. Absorbing the spirit, the boy thinks the kobold's stats were worse than he expected, and that it's not even enough to reach the 50th floor. Suddenly, he hears a voice coming from behind him asking for permission. The hobgoblin girl thanks him for saving her. Then coming closer, she introduces herself as Haryu. Our boy says it's fine since he had business with the kobold lord anyway, and the girl says she wants to pay him back for his help. Then smiling, our hero asks the girl what if he were a bad guy too, who could just kill or sell a hobgoblin like her. The girl then with a firm look says that if something like that happened, she would have to get revenge later on. Remembering, the boy thinks that hobgoblins have a long memory for acts of kindness and acts of vengeance, so he tells her she's definitely a hobgoblin. Then he says that if she wants to repay him for saving her, she should start by answering what the hell she was doing so far from the 100th floor. She then says that someone attacked their village on the 100th floor. Our hero is surprised and thinks that they are hard to attack and very strong even for high-level players. Then thinking, he wonders if it was the 4 emperors. The giants with their overwhelming strength, the dragons with their innate magic, the extremely evil demons, and the celestials, bearers of retribution. These are the 4 dominant tribes that rule over all floors of the tower. He continues thinking that if someone wants to incite the hobgoblins without getting caught, they must have someone very strong protecting them or be part of one of the 4 tribes. Then he remembers it could also have something to do with the Ministers' Guild. He gets irritated remembering the ministers, and the girl, worried, asks if he is alright. Our boy says it's nothing and tells her he is leaving now, but the girl stammers and asks where he is going. The boy asks if she is planning to stay there in that pool of blood. She says that if it's alright with him, she would like to go along. Our boy thinks she is still very young, but forming a party with her wouldn't be bad. The boy says he is very busy and won't have time to protect her all the time, and she happily says she knows how to take care of herself. Then he asks if she has already forgotten how she was tricked by the kobold lord, and she pauses. She gets upset and says it was only because she let her guard down for a moment, and our boy says whatever and tells her to follow him. Looking at his clothes, he thinks he needs to get some new ones because walking around covered in blood would draw the wrong attention at that moment. Then looking at the kobold leader's body, he sees an armor symbol on top. Looking closer at the icon, he wonders if that is an equipment symbol. Sometime later, he puts on the equipment he got from the kobold lord and starts leaving the castle. While they were walking, a whirlpool of energy appeared in front of them. The girl moves closer to Cha as a person emerges from the energy whirlpool. Balkan appears in front of them with some kobold spirits and says that everything has been taken care of, that there are no more kobolds alive in the castle. Our boy says that Balkan did a good job while the girl asks who that is. Balkan asks who the girl is and how she can see him, and she says that some hobgoblins have a strong affinity with souls. Cha thinks what she meant was that she is a special hobgoblin. Then he thinks he could just use his predation skill and absorb her abilities, but she is very young and it makes sense to train her alongside him. A system window pops up with a notification sound next to our boy. The window said it was a monster wave mission and that when a lore-type monster is killed, a monster wave could happen. Smiling, he says bingo while looking at the system window. Balkan and the girl stay behind him while she asks if he will accept it, and the other is surprised such a mission exists. The boy then says that if he had no intention of participating in the mission, he wouldn't have gone there to defeat the Kobold Lord. Several message windows appear, including one from Baal saying he is irresponsible and one from Bune saying he will give a reward if he finishes first. He directly asks Bune if he is trying to even things out again, and the window says the Guardian agrees with what was said. Then he says he will decide when he sees the prize. Balkan says he is crazy for thinking about accepting something like that, but at the same time says he will be free if the boy dies. Smiling, the boy says no, he will be his slave even if he dies, and the ghost screams telling him to stop joking because he's already giving him chills. Our boy then presses the button marked yes to accept the mission. Then a red window shows that there will be a monster outbreak at the village gates and that someone has accepted the monster wave mission. Meanwhile, in the village of Coral, several people are gathered wondering what the hell is happening. Everyone wonders who the madman was who accepted that mission, and they are worried they will die once the monster wave reaches the town. One of the players says that whoever has already completed the first floor mission should run and climb to the second floor because they won't be able to move up once the wave starts. Someone grabs him saying they still need to kill 3 kobolds to complete the mission and asks for help while he tells them to let him go. Then some lightning appears in the sky and converges on a nearby area in the forest where they are gathered. A giant portal then appears at the place where the lightning converged. A kobold starts coming out of the portal on its way to the city. The next second, countless kobolds begin running out of the portal toward the village. The people in the village, upon seeing the scene, despair, saying it's too late and there are too many of them. Suddenly, a voice appears telling those people to get out of there. A pillar of light falls in front of them in the path of the goblins, making them stop. Our boy, the middle of the pillar of light, says that if anyone touches the kobolds, they will die. The pillar of light disappears and our boy appears with Harry and Balkan. The people behind them scream for them to get out of there, asking if they are blind and saying it's dangerous to be there on the front line. Our boy then puffs out his chest and the circle of souls appears. He then says for them to move aside, and a crowd of kobold spirits comes out from the circle in his chest and prepares to attack the living kobolds. Another player shouts that he's a necromancer and says that this is only the first floor, asking how the hell he managed to change his occupation. The crowd of living kobolds prepares to clash with the crowd of kobold spirits. As our hero watches, the carnage in front of him comes to life with the battle between the living and dead kobolds. The girl then asks if she can try to get the Slayer title in that mission. She then tells her to run because his army of souls won't leave much behind. The girl smiles and says for him not to worry because she has her methods too. She concentrates and an opening appears between her hands. Our hero, looking at the opening, thinks that it's a subspace. Harry begins pulling a sword out of that subspace. The kobolds are piling up on top of each other to attack the group but are unsuccessful in getting past the barrier of spirits. One of them manages to reach the girl alive and jumps toward her. The girl then starts drawing her sword with her eyes locked on the enemy. In the next second, she cuts through the kobold, slicing it in 2. The boy thinks that sword is anything but normal just by its appearance, and that besides that, she knows very well how to use it. He then continues wondering if the people who attacked the hobgoblin village weren't actually after this girl in the first place. Someone behind them calls out to our hero. A person steps forward and asks who he is and why he is suppressing the monster wave alone. Cha turns and asks who he is. Smiling, he introduces himself as Kim Sumte, and then asks if he knows the White Swallower Guild. Our boy says he doesn't know, and the other says he can't believe he's never heard of the White Swallower. Then he says it's the guild from the Holy Land coming from the famous Fallon twins of the Ninsters, and that the White Swallower is affiliated with them. In shock, our hero asks again what he said about the Fallon twins. The boy continues saying that his older brother is from the White Swallower, so they decided to join them when they reached the 10th floor. The boy then says that our hero's skills aren't bad, and that he can talk to his brother about admitting Cha. Then summoning one of his ghost kobolds behind the boy, Cha apologizes and says that unfortunately, he will have to say no. The spirit starts choking him and lifting him into the air while Cha grabs the boy's sword, saying that he arrived at the right time because he needed information about them. With Kim's sword in hand, he says he'll meet him again after the wave and that he has a few questions to ask. One of the other 2 who were with him asks why he's doing that to a fellow climber, and the other says it's not cool to bully just because you're stronger. Cha looks at the 2 and asks why not and says it makes perfect sense to him. He continues saying that you can't hit people, you can't kill, you can't steal. Those rules only apply on Earth, and that here in the tower, being the strongest is everything. Kim screams and begs to be let go because he will die. Cha lets the boy go and says that he's not alive at the moment, that he's only being allowed to live because Cha needs the information he has. Turning his back and refocusing his attention ahead, he tells the boy not to let his big mouth get him into danger and to keep his distance. The other 2 ask him what he really wants to do and if he will really let the boy go like that. He then quietly tells them to run, but his friend doesn't hear. Kim then shouts that he's sent to run and that they will really die if he catches them. Meanwhile, the battle between the Soul Army and the kobold wave continues fiercely. One of the living kobolds points upward and says something in their language, making some others look up. Then they see our hero along with Balkan, flying above the crowd of kobolds. Our boy with his sword stolen from Kim and Balkan with magic in his hands. They fall into the middle of the kobolds, sending several of them flying high into the air from the impact of their landing. While cutting and passing through the kobolds, our hero says to look at all those weaklings. Che says he will fight them and leaves the task of controlling them to Balkan, who says they will have a lot of work to do that day. Then both stretch their hands forward and tell them to rise. A skeleton starts being created purely out of magic. Several skulls begin to emerge from the ground, from the bodies of the defeated kobolds, and one in particular grabs the leg of a kobold. It stands up and bites the kobold's neck, while another skeleton bites into its belly. The boy says to turn them into skeleton knights, and Balkan says he would have done it even if he hadn't said anything. Then our boy jumps into the air, and again with his wicked smile, he flies for the enemies, saying now he'll really start having fun. Once more, his landing among the enemies causes several kobolds to be sent flying. Our hero keeps defeating kobold after kobold with his sword. Haruo also does her part, cutting down enemies with her sword skills. Then we see a slightly larger group of kobolds heading toward the girl. Sweating and panting, she thinks there are too many of them. Suddenly, one of the kobolds jumps onto her back without her seeing. He slashes her with his claws, sending her blood flying everywhere. Haruo screams in pain from the surprise attack. The girl says that cut is nothing compared to another pain. Then we see the girl in front of her tribe, seeing everything engulfed in flames. She recovers and spins around, killing the kobolds around her with clean sword strikes, until there comes a moment when her knees weaken. Harry then falls to the ground, saying she has reached her limit. Behind her, something explodes loudly and catches her attention as we see some kobolds flying. Looking back, she thinks about how amazing that is. She thinks he's just a first-floor adventurer and, on top of that, just a human. How could he be so strong? The girl leans on her sword and thinks she must follow that guy and climb the tower so she can avenge her tribe and village. A kobold appears behind her, surprising her, but its head is removed by a bolt of lightning. Balkan appears asking if she's alright, and she stammers that she is. Supporting herself on her sword and trembling badly, she says she can handle it alone while trying to stand. The ghost thinks that this young girl is full of determination and wonders what must have happened to her. Then she asks the ghost why he helped her. The girl says that while she was fleeing from the 100th floor, no one wanted to help her, in fact, may try to hurt her. Right after, she asks if he is helping her because he wants something from her. The ghost says he doesn't even know himself, while she doesn't understand. The ghost knight simply obeys the orders of its master, and that's it. The girl then realizes something as she observes the ghost. Shijin Hyuk ordered him to help her and to keep her safe, as well as help her earn the achievements she needed. The ghost then says he will continue because the brat sees him standing around. He will use that as an excuse to say he's slacking off. The girl then grips the hilt of her sword and thinks that Che was the only person who helped her in the tower. She then begins gathering her energy into a ball in front of her, while thinking that she will risk her life to repay his kindness if necessary. The girl summons a red demonic mask. Then she puts it on her face. When she opens her eyes, they glow intensely red. She roars as if possessed immediately after. Balkan, a little distance away, sees the red energy pillar and thinks of the girl. Cha then also notices the energy pillar coming from the direction where the girl was. The kobolds become frightened and say something in their language. The girl then, with red eyes, growls dangerously. In a second, she jumps so fast that her image doesn't keep up with her. One of the kobolds is extremely terrified because the girl simply vanished from in front of him. In the blink of an eye, she appears behind him with her sword. Then she manages to slice and dice all the kobolds in the area. The speed and power of the strikes were so intense it looked like it was raining blood from the skies after she hit them. She turns her face and sees more enemies at a close distance. Then, with her super speed, she flies toward them. Our boy watches from a distance the destruction Harry was causing among the kobolds. He thinks it was exactly as he expected. The attackers went straight after her and her sword. He then thinks it wouldn't be good to tell her that the reason the village was destroyed was because of her existence. A system window informs that the wave will end in 1 minute. The three continue fighting bravely, crushing hordes of kobolds. Someone then calls Cha and warns him that the gate is closing. With his wicked smile, he watches the last kobold come out of the portal. He then throws his sword at full force toward the portal. A sword lands squarely in the kobold's chest, sending it flying backward. The strike was so strong it made him fly back into the portal. A massive cistern window informs that he successfully stopped the wave. The boy then says that the result was expected. Balkan says the boy really is a monster. The girl begins removing her mask while asking if it's over. She was about to fall face first to the ground from exhaustion, but our hero catches her by the shoulders. He says a tired body shouldn't use abilities like the one she used. The girl blushes and stammers while thanking him. Individual cistern windows appear in front of them. The window says the wave was completed successfully and that there are rewards for first, second, and third places. The boy then says it's perfect, time to collect their rewards. A cistern window informs that more than 2,500 kobolds were eliminated. A new achievement was unlocked by our hero, granting him the title of Kobold Slayer, 5 bonus points to all stats, and 500 merit points. He thinks the status bonus is low, but the achievement will be good for future status upgrades. Cha thinks that if he becomes proficient in various techniques using his 2 skills, that number will keep growing endlessly. The system window says he ranked first in the Monster Wave mission, and a glowing square appears in front of him. Harry ranks second, also receiving a glowing box. Balkan came in 3rd place and wonders why it was him. Our boy says it's great that he won and asks for his reward while he agrees, saying it would be hard to use it anyway, being a spirit. The girl then calls the attention of both. She says she wants our boy to have her reward too, that it's her way of asking to go with him. The boy looks at her and asks if she really wants to do that. He says he's been betrayed before and that it's fine if she wants to come with him, but it doesn't mean he trusts her. Our hero gets very close to her and says that's a very big gift to accept without any suspicion. He then says being betrayed once is enough and tells her to try to earn his trust, and that it will be hard to keep up with him if she can't. The girl is in shock, holding her reward in her hand. She concentrates and opens her subspace, taking out her mask as well. Then she says for him to take not just the reward, but her hobgoblin mask too. Balkan is extremely shocked to realize she's giving her hobgoblin mask to an outsider. The mask of the hobgoblin is the essence of all their power. It is given to a partner only once in a lifetime when they propose marriage. He then asks, as he picks up the mask, why she is giving all that to him. She says it's proof that she will never betray him in a form of gratitude for him having saved her life twice. The boy then says that even so, that mask is very valuable and she must have an ulterior motive. She then says quietly, revenge. She then asks her, revenge against who? She says she didn't go into details, but her village was burned to the ground and she tried looking for survivors, but found none. Finally, she says that she might be the only hobgoblin who survived. With hatred in her eyes, she screams that as the last hobgoblin, she must take revenge on the damned ones who killed her whole village and asks him to let her climb the tower with him. He then thinks that this child is like him, only seeking revenge. He then takes her reward and tells her that if she betrays him, she will die. Cha continues saying that he doesn't need the mask and tells her not to think of it as a guarantee of life. She then smiles happily and says she is glad to work with him and calls him brother. He's clearly disappointed, wondering why on earth she called him brother. The boy throws his rewards up into the air while telling her to call him wherever she wants. The cubes then open, revealing the rewards he acquired. A mana ring, a mana earring, and a mana necklace. Balkan says that he got good things, and the girl wonders if they are really good since they are all mana items. The boy says they are excellent for a necromancer, and Balkan adds that it will improve the quality and quantity of summons by 45%. He then asks no one in particular why he is not saying anything. He then looks up and says he hasn't forgotten Boone, the guardian of death's promised reward. The guardian then says he wants to switch places before talking. They then go to the village and stop inside the town's tavern. Balkan notices that the village is deserted, and our hero comments that they must be upstairs or in the forest because of the monster wave. Our boy says that it's fine there and tells him to stop stalling and hand over his reward already, and Boone says not to rush him. Suddenly, a pillar of light appears above the table they are sitting at. A ring then appears in front of him. Our boy then says he's getting a lot of accessories that day and takes a closer look at the given ring. Then he is shocked to realize what the ring is. Balkan then gets nervous and asks what it is while the girl asks him to tell him. He then, putting the ring on his finger, says that the ring carries demonic power. Balkan is shocked and asks if he is sure about that. He thinks that demonic power is an ability exclusively possessed by one of the 4 emperors. It is a malevolent power that can be considered a source of extremely high-quality mana. Our boy thinks that the only way to acquire demonic power is by becoming a demon's slave, and that the difference between having it and not having it is absurd. Then we see our hero's updated status window with lots of mana and already with 10 points of demonic power. Moon says through a system window that he wants to be on good terms with our hero and extends his hand for a handshake. The boy then says that it's fine with such an incredible item he could forget about the blood golem prank. Balkan says the boy is ready to climb the tower again, and the girl says her brother is amazing, while Bol's window stays quietly in the corner. Then the window starts to shake and burn with envy. The window then says it is angry and that it also wants to shake his hand. Our hero says that everything has a price, and if it wants a handshake, it will have to bring something for him, while Balkan mocks him for playing around with a demon. Bal says he doesn't know what to do and starts looking for something in his drawer, under his bed, in his closet, but our hero tells him to stop. The little window shows that Bal has entered thinking mode. Then he comes back saying he will give him a mission. Our boy is surprised and asks if he is really going to give him a mission. Balkan, smiling, says that a mission from a demon won't be easy and tells our boy to prepare well, and Chase says he is surprised too. Then the boy says it's fine, that he can consider it a favor. Bal says that's not what he had in mind, and our hero responds that if he wants, the boy can simply refuse. The demon continues saying that now there's no going back. The mission says he has to make his name known throughout the entire tower before reaching the 100th floor, and that if he fails, he will have to train to become Bal's apostle. Our boy thinks about the reward, which says he can choose any item and Bol will give him the blueprint for it, and he thinks that, Coming from a demon, it could be anything. Then he thinks that the mission conditions are heavy and that if he fails, he doesn't want to be forced to become an apostle of Baal, despite it being a unique opportunity. Finally, our boy tells Baal that he accepts the mission he offered. Baal is happy and shakes our hero's hand. Leaving the tavern, Balkan asks him what they are going to do and if they are heading to the second floor already. Our boy says not yet, they need to find that boy Kim Sumte because he has information he needs. Then Shake tells Balkan to find him, but the ghost complains that he has no idea where the boy is. Our hero says it's not a problem because he left one of the ghost kobolds following him, saying he went pretty far but hasn't left the floor yet. The ghost then says he should have said that earlier and bids farewell, disappearing into the ground in front of him. The boy then asks Harry if she wants to walk around a bit and talk casually. He then lifts the mask hanging around his neck and says he wants to know more about her. Sometime later, the girl explains about the mask and he says that, to summarize, it's an item to help hobgoblins use their powers. He then asks if hobgoblin abilities are magic and supernatural powers, and the girl confirms that yes, they are exactly that. The girl says she has an ability called premonition, which allows her to see the future using her supernatural abilities. Our hero says he would prefer some ability related to combat if he could choose one. Harry keeps staring at him for a while. Bothered by the girl staring, he asks why she is doing that, and she says it's nothing. It's just that he is very different. She explains that people from various tribes used to come to them almost every day bringing gifts so they could have their future predicted. Many people can't handle the anxiety of knowing about their own future and work hard to eliminate uncertainties. The boy then asks her if there is really any reason to eliminate them, since it's easier to deal with them directly and break them yourself. She then gets happy and says that maybe her ability will suit him well, but our boy doesn't quite understand what she meant. Harry then says that her ability is battle premonition, used only for situations and battles, and asks what he thinks about that and whether he finds it useful. Suddenly, he hugs the girl, leaving her surprised. Then he says in her ear that she's perfect, and the girl starts blushing like crazy. Smiling evilly, he thanks God that it's her and says that she's the best. She then thinks that with her ability, it doesn't matter what it is, even if he faces combat-specialized Ninstar, he has a chance of winning. The girl remains completely in shock and nervous, blushing shyly. She then thanks him for the hug. Two windows then appear. Baal says he started to close the curtain, and the nine-tailed fox licks its lips while staring at Harry. Then he yells at Baal, asking him to turn off his camera and stop following him. The boy apologizes and says he didn't realize, and the girl says it's okay and that she is very happy to be able to help. Then he tells her he will pay a good price for the mask and that she will be part of his revenge. She thanks him and says she is looking forward to working with him and calls him brother again. Next, we see Balkan putting his hand over Kim's mouth, silencing him and asking him to stop struggling. Balkan keeps saying that his friends left him behind and tells him just to stay quiet and wait for his master to arrive. He then rumbles to himself, wondering if his master knows how hard it is to catch someone alive and asking himself where the kid went. Sometime later, Cha appears with Harry, and Balkan complains about how hard it is to keep that man from running away and says that he is late. The boy then, drawing his sword from the sheath, asks if Kim was really trying to run and tells Balkan to step aside. The ghost then steps back and our hero drives the sword into the tree beside the boy's head. He says he will return the boy's sword, but wonders how he will hold it. He then continues, saying that he can hold it with his hands or with his stomach, depending only on the answers he gives. The boy asks Kim to tell him everything he knows about the White Swallower Guild and to start now, while the other stutters with fear, saying yes. Sometime later, the boy is running away from Cha, and Balkan asks if he's really going to let him go, and our hero says yes, because he will defeat the entire guild later. Recapping, the White Swallower Guild is a branch of the Sacred Land Guild, and most likely has several other guilds from the 10th to the 200th floor working for them. The boy says he has to plan how to destroy them all, while Balkan says it will be a hard and repetitive task. Our hero says at least there's one good thing about this, and Harry asks if he's talking about the mission given by Baal. He replies yes, that dismantling the Fallon Brothers operations base is an excellent opportunity to complete the mission too. Our hero then asks if it's time for them to run to the 10th floor. Some people are talking in the second floor city and ask if those who are arriving are the ones who held back the monster wave alone, and if there were 2 or 3 of them. Then someone in the crowd points at the portal and says they've arrived. One of the people then, gritting their teeth, asks what the hell that is. Then we see our hero wearing the hobgoblin mask, and someone in the crowd asks if it's a ghost mask. People then start bombarding them with questions. What's his name? If he was the one who accepted the Monster Wave mission, and if he already has a guild. The boy thinks that if he uses the name Che Jinhyuk, he might end up creating problems and remembers Baal's mission, which allows him to use a nickname too. So he says his name is Demonic Mask. Our hero, after saying his name is Demonic Mask, turns to Balkan and Harry and starts walking away while the crowd wonders what just happened. One of the onlookers tells him to wait, that there's still a lot to answer, while another asks him to stop so they can ask something. Then the other asks if that guy isn't one of those who committed crimes in his life on Earth and ran to the tower to escape the problems he caused on Earth. The boy thinks that hiding your face and name in the tower is common, and the rumors about the monster wave and the mask are bound to attract a lot of attention. She then tells Balkan that it's better for them to keep moving since they still have a lot to test. Then he and his group enter a pillar of light and disappear. The people in the crowd notice that they just left without answering any of their questions. They appear in a place in the middle of a forest on the second floor. A system message welcomes them and says that the mission to climb the floor is to eliminate 10 warrior kobolds and 10 regular kobolds. Looking at the screen and pulling down his hood, he thinks that the mission is nothing special, just as he imagined. He then says he'll leave the mission to Balkan. Then the ghost asks if he's ordering him to catch those monsters alive. Our hero asks him to catch them for Harry's mission too, if possible, and says he's about to test the demonic power of the ring, so he should hurry if he wants to watch. Flying, the ghost says he's a wicked brat and asks him not to use everything before he gets back. The girl asks if it's okay for them to do the mission like that, and the boy, while taking off his robe, says she can go hunt the monsters if she wants. Then he leaves the mask and cloak with the girl as he focuses on the power of his ring. The boy realizes he's positively nervous because he never thought he would be able to use demonic power in his life. He then says to rise using the power of demons and the 4 emperors. A flame appears in front of him as he admires it and thinks that this, yes, is demonic power. The girl seems to notice something to their left and steps in front of the boy, calling him brother. She notices the presence of a kobold hiding in the bushes a little further ahead. The kobold then jumps toward our hero to attack him. Our boy smiles and says that the monster appeared at the right time, the time to test demonic power. The boy tells the flame in front of him to attack with the flame of demonic power revelation. The flame flies past the kobold, who tilts his head to the side, letting the flame pass by. The girl is surprised to see that the kobold actually managed to dodge an attack using demonic power. Then our hero thinks no, that attack doesn't need to be aimed. The kobold notices something strange and its shoulder begins to crack. Then his arm cracks further and starts to fall off, while the kobold looks on in desperation. Harry then asks what happened, while our boy says that demonic power is truly cruel and that weak enemies don't stand a chance against it. He continues saying that they will end up like that even with a small scratch, while the kobold completely disintegrates. Then he says that the real test begins now, as he watches the kobold's soul float out of his body. If a soul knight absorbs a little demonic power, it is destined to become stronger. That said, he mixes a little demonic power into the soul of the kobold he just killed. Then, straining, our hero thinks that the kobold's soul might not be able to endure the demonic power and could end up breaking. He then thinks of lowering the amount of demonic power and literally starting at the first level at 1 point. He then manages to mold the kobold's spirit knight with 1 point of demonic power. The girl says he succeeded, but it seemed very difficult, and the boy says he was also surprised and that it was actually simpler than he thought. Thinking that no other tribe has ever used demonic power, he doubts that anyone else besides him knows how easy it is to manipulate. Someone then comes up behind him and asks if he did that using demonic power. Balkan returns and says it looks amazing, the fusion was perfect, and that you should call them Infernal Soul Knights. Our boy likes the name Infernal Soul Knights as Balkan analyzes the spirit more closely, saying he wonders who taught him those skills. Then Cho wonders if that means he'll have to infuse demonic energy every time he creates a new spirit knight, because if so, it will be hard to use them in combat. Then he has an idea and wonders if he really has to be the one to perform the summonings. The boy then tells Balkan that regarding summoning skills, he is much better than he is. He also says that his skills in organizing and commanding them are excellent, while the spirit starts blushing and says the boy is finally showing some respect. Then he sees demonic energy heading towards him. Screaming in pain, he asks what the boy is doing to him. He says that by infusing Balkan with demonic energy and turning him into an infernal spirit knight, all his summons will also become infernal soul knights. Moreover, he continues, since Balkan is much stronger than a kobold, he will use all 10 points of demonic power on him and finally tells him to hold on tight. A pillar of purple and pink light falls on the place where Balkan's spirit was while the spirit screams Che Jin-hyuk's name. The girl shouts at him, trying to get his attention, and he tells her to stay calm because the first master of souls won't meet his end so easily. Suffering, Balkan screams that once he gets out of there, he will break the boy's body into tiny pieces. He then tells the ghost to go ahead and try, saying he always admires his summon that can pose a threat to his life. Then the energy starts spiraling around Balkan's spirit. The spirit reappears with a completely different aura around his body than before. Our boy then calls him his most powerful infernal soul knight. Balkan begins by saying that he made a mistake. Summoning countless infernal kobold soul knights, he yells that the biggest mistake any necromancer can make is creating a being far more powerful than himself. Our boy says that Balkan looks furious, and that this is very good. Meanwhile, he takes the mask from Harry's hands. After taking the mask, he puts it directly on his face. He says he needed someone to test the powers of that mask. Balkan shouts that it will be as the boy wishes, that he will mass-produce infernal soul knights for him. Summoning countless monsters, Balkan sends them to attack our protagonist. A glint flashes across our boy's eyes as he uses the hobgoblin girl's mask. She notices that he managed to use the power of the mask and is surprised. One of the souls launched at him notices something different. All the infernal soul knights became extremely slow. Then he thinks that it's not just that. This was the world seen through Harry's eyes. Our boy then runs through and destroys every soul in his path. Balkan, not understanding, is astonished at his master's speed. Our protagonist says that he might look like that now, but once he was called the Death Star. Then he punches Balkan right in the face. The ghost takes the hit hard while our boy starts preparing the second punch. She lifts the mask a little and tells the Soul Knight to be obedient. Then giving a second punch, the spirit falls to the ground, causing a huge impact as Harry runs to him, and our boy lands gracefully beside her. The girl, worried, stays next to the ghost while the boy tells her not to worry because a soul warrior won't be hurt by just a punch. Balkan confirms, saying yes if it's a normal person's punch, but his punch actually hurts. The girl then, calling him brother, asks if he used the mask's power. He says yes, that he felt like everything was in slow motion, and that he was a martial artist at the peak of his strength. She then says that actually that is just a phenomenon that happens when a person fails to fully harness the true power of the mask. Still surprised, he asks if what he felt was just a side effect and how the mask should work if used correctly. The girl then asks if he remembers when she talked about her battle premonition ability and says she can foresee the next action of her opponents. He grabs her by the shoulders and asks how he can achieve that level, and she says she doesn't know, that for her, it happens naturally. Sighing and smiling, he wonders what she means by naturally. Looking at her, our boy thinks he forgot that she's probably a genius hobgoblin, and that it's impossible for her to teach something that is as natural as breathing. The girl asks if he feels dizzy for any reason, and he says he's fine. She says that inexperienced hobgoblins usually feel headaches and dizziness after using their powers without fully mastering them, and that even she can't always use it. The girl says he must be feeling fine because he didn't manage to use the mask's power at all. The boy gets upset, saying she hit him right where it hurts, and the girl says she meant that he will be able to use it soon. Our boy thinks he was too arrogant, thinking things would just fall into place, and that his growth on the second floor was so absurd that he got carried away. He pats her head, saying that thanks to the girl he managed to bring perspective back into his mind, and she says she hardly did anything. Meanwhile, Balkan feels completely isolated and forgotten in the corner. He thinks about how he, the greatest and best spirit master alive, ended up becoming that pathetic being. Then the spirit notices someone coming toward him. Harry starts approaching him and crouches down as if to hug him. Balkan then hugs the girl, saying that she's different from that brat, that she came there to comfort him. She then awkwardly points to the side. The girl says maybe he hasn't caught enough kobolds yet. She came to bring a message from the boy saying he forgot one and for him to go catch it quickly before the boy turns him into a spirit potion. Balkan clenches his teeth, tears in his eyes, thinking about how he ended up like that. A cistern window then appears, showing that the second floor mission was successfully completed. Next, we see Balkan summoning his infernal soul knights on the third floor. On the fourth floor, we see Cha with his mask and ring using his powers. On the fifth floor, we see Harry with a devilish smile, cutting enemies in half with her sword. An adventurer tells another if he heard about the guy with the demonic mask who went into the forest on the fifth floor and hasn't come back yet, and it's already been 3 days. The other says that maybe kobolds were his limit, that on the fifth floor there are goblins who shoot strong poison arrows. Then we see a hand on the ground with energy emanating from the place it touches. The energy and the hand belong to our protagonist, who is concentrating while touching the ground. Meanwhile, a goblin with a blowgun is hanging silently from a nearby tree. He prepares to attack our boy. Then the goblin shoots the poison dart at Cha. Something cuts the poison dart in two before it hits our protagonist. We see Harry behind him looking at the goblin with a sword in hand. With her best demonic glare, she asks how the goblin dares attack her brother. The goblin cowers and trembles, squealing in fear at the girl's glare. Then Balkan appears above the branch of the tree where the goblin was hanging, and one of his infernal soul spirits descends toward the goblin. The ghost clenches his hand into a fist and an explosion happens beneath him. Balkan praises the girl's block while she's still upset that the goblin dared to attack her brother. Radiating red energy, she says she should have grabbed the goblin by the throat even as the old ghost asks if she's okay. Looking at the girl, he thinks something is really wrong with her. Why is she giving that terrifying smile? Balkan comes closer to the girl and asks if she feels alright. She jumps in surprise and wonders why she's holding her sword and smiling like that. The boy then stands up and says he waited a long time and everything is finally ready. Smiling, he says that during that night, he will start another monster wave. Then we go back to the night before they enter the fifth floor and see a crackling campfire. The three are sitting and our hero says they're about to enter the fifth floor, and from there on they'll face goblins and must prepare to earn the title of assassin. The girl asks if he will go after the Lord, but Balkan says there's no way to know when or where a Lord monster will appear. Then Shay says he won't hunt the Goblin Lord, and that, to be precise, he doesn't need to. He knows how to trigger a monster wave event artificially. Both companions are shocked and repeat the question, how to artificially summon a monster wave event. Balkan says that if such a thing existed, people would have already spread rumors about it, but Che says he just figured it out. Then he said it was somewhere between floor 300 and 400 that he opened the ground while climbing the tower, and that's when he discovered how. He said that somewhere on every floor of the tower there is a central area where monsters are born. The boy says that if you find this area and continuously infuse it with mana, it will continuously spawn monsters as if it were a monster wave. Balkan then says he must have gotten many good rewards from that, and he says no, because that will be his first time in life trying it. He says that the monsters from floor 300 upward are on a completely different level, and if a wave happened, even the 4 emperors would find it hard to contain. The ghost says he didn't know when that information would be useful, and that when he discovered it, it was already useless. And our boy says not this time, it's very useful. He then reveals that his plan is to eliminate as many waves as possible and quickly raise his stats. We then see a city full of people walking around. The ground suddenly starts to tremble and shake. Someone then asks if there's an earthquake happening and says they're in the tower, so there shouldn't be. Then someone else tells him to look the other way. Next, everyone looks at a gigantic portal appearing near the city, and someone says it's a monster wave, that he saw it happen on the first floor. Another says that goblins are coming out of the portal in droves. A player says it's not possible, that a monster wave is happening inside the city and that there was no announcement about it. The goblins then start using their blowguns with poisoned darts. Several people are hit by the darts, including the guy in the beanie who is speaking first. His blonde friend kneels beside him and asks if he's okay, while the other is lying on the ground shaking and says he can't move. The friend then thinks it's because of the goblin poison, and that he won't be able to move for quite a while. He carries his friend on his back but thinks he might not make it in time because they're getting too close. The boy closes his eyes and thinks he can't believe he'll die before reaching the 10th floor. Then we see the familiar ring with demonic energy spiraling from it. A purple pillar of flame lands in the middle of the street, leaving a small crater with its impact. Then a man appears in front of the blonde boy and his friend, saying that those who aren't hurt should help get the injured out of there. The blonde one recognizes him as Demonic Mask. The people around then start saying they're saved, that Demonic Mask is there and he has experience with waves. He then thinks of course he'll save them, and by saving them, they can start spreading rumors about him. Then he summons his army of Infernal Soul Knights. His spirits then begin to pass through all the goblins that appeared in front of them. Balkan behind him says that he's the one summoning those knights, and our hero tells him to stop whining and continues summoning more Infernal Soul Knights. Suddenly, something explodes next to them. Both look and notice that the Infernal Soul Knights are on fire. Then behind all that fire, goblins appear with flaming staffs completely different from the ones that had appeared until then. They then see the psychic goblins. Balkan is in shock and says that they can hurt his Infernal Soul Knights, and our hero says he can see it too, and that they have to deal with him first. Our boy says that if they don't eliminate those, it will be impossible to hold the wave, while Harry is on top of one of the houses with her sword in hand. With a wicked smile, she jumps toward the mass of goblins below her. With a quick slash, she eliminates the psychic goblins as soon as she hits the ground. Balkan is extremely satisfied and clenches his fist while smiling. Then when he looks to the side, he notices that his master is no longer there. He went somewhere else to delight in the souls of those who had fallen. Using his predation ability, he begins to absorb the souls of the psychic goblins. A flame that can tear through souls, a very valuable technique for goblins, and one that will be much better in his hands. Then he looks at a group of goblins and uses his new ability, Soul Flame. The boy looks back and congratulates Harry for quickly dealing with the psychic goblins and tells her to keep focusing her attacks on them. Then he stops mid-sentence and sees the evil look and completely maniacal smile on the girl's face. Startled, he calls her name. Suddenly, the girl's sword begins to emit a red glow as if it were on fire. Then a blood-red flame tornado forms toward the goblins. The boy saw the sword glowing and knew it wasn't an ordinary sword. But what the hell was that? Then he notices the girl, that her hair changed and she's wearing a half-samurai armor over her normal clothes. Again, the boy calls her name, still in shock. The girl looks at him with a maniacal smile and bulging eyes filled with madness. She then makes a horizontal slash with her sword in front of the boy. The girl's horizontal slash left a mark on the city walls and everything around at the height of her cut. Then we see all the houses disconnecting from their foundations above where the girl has slashed. The goblins scream in desperation as they see the houses collapsing on top of them. Absolutely every house in the area was sliced in half and the tops collapsed on the creatures. We then see a piece of a staff still red from how fast the wood was cut. Our boy, who ducked at the right moment, is holding the bottom half of his staff and thinks the village was completely destroyed in a flash. Then looking at the girl, he wonders what the hell that sword is. The girl starts laughing, wildly cutting everything and everyone around. She slices a piece off our hero's cloak. It would have been his head if he hadn't dodged. As a result of that attack, she hits the structures behind him, which explode into 1,000 pieces. He then shouts that it's him, Chijin-hyuk, and removes his mask, asking if she doesn't recognize him. The girl ignores him and charges at him with a sword strike that he can barely defend using his broken staff. As he parries the girl's blow, he notices she's absurdly strong. He is then sent flying several meters away, crashing through houses from the force of her strike. Balkan starts screaming Haryu and Cha's names. Then Balkan speaks into Che's mind, asking if the brat is alive and if she's safe, and then Che wonders if the ghost is talking to him via telepathy. When he hears our boy's answer, Balkan assumes he's okay and asks about Haryu, to which he responds that he's getting his ass kicked by her at that very moment. Then he says he thinks he's facing the most powerful weapon the hobgoblins have ever made. The ghost asks what he'll do about the monster wave, and our hero says most of them died in the explosion anyway and tells him to kill the rest. Then he says he has to deal with Harry while putting on the demonic mask again and grabbing an axe. Our hero then jumps toward the girl, who's in the hole he went through when she attacked him. He then tries to activate the Battle Premonition ability. His intuition, having previously climbed up to the 590-man floor, tells him that sword is extremely powerful and can kill with a single strike. So he thinks that in the tower there are no lifelong companions nor enemies and feels sorry that he has to end Harry right then and there. He then silently apologizes as he brings the axe down in a direct strike toward the girl's head. The axe is literally inches from the girl's face, who was smiling. Then, for 1 second, Harry returns to her normal state, calling him brother and smiling cheerfully. He wonders why the hell he's hesitating, and then she grabs the axe blade with her bare hand. We then see the girl channeling energy through her body and holding the axe blade above her. Then suddenly, he realizes by looking at her that this must be the Battle Premonition ability she has. Laughing insanely, she makes a vertical slash at our hero. Chet distances himself from her, bleeding, and abandons the axe. With his hand on the ground, he starts channeling energy through it while his blood spreads. Then he finally uses his ability and commands them to rise, to Harry's surprise. Several skeletal hands rise from the ground. He thinks he's lucky there was a wave of goblins sleeping under the rubble, and now they're dead. He then commands the goblin bone knights to attack. The skeletons begin to grab her by her legs, arms, thighs, and so on. She emits a flash from her eyes and then cuts all the skeletons to pieces. Our boy is stunned that he couldn't even see her cutting through them and wonders if she used her Battle Premonition. Then he thinks there's no way he can defeat an opponent like her at this moment. Another explosion happens in front of our hero, who tries to shield himself and is thrown far away. He then jumps, trying to keep as much distance from her as possible. Chen notices something strange that he hadn't noticed until now. Looking at the girl now, he can clearly see she's panting heavily, getting very tired. Even her stance is different. He also notices that blood is running from her eyes and thinks something must be wrong. It might be one of the side effects Harry said could happen, and if that's the case, he still has a chance to win. Stepping firmly on the ground and breaking a window, our boy will try to use the strategy of forcing her to overuse her Battle Premonition. He then starts entering through the broken window, and Harry, noticing his movements, charges to attack. She reaches the edge of the hole he entered and sees him on the floor below. The boy then provokes her, asking why she's just standing there staring at him and whether she plans to attack at any point. She smiles and doesn't hesitate, jumping at him with her sword. Suddenly, two shadows fly out from either side of him, heading toward the girl. Two goblins with blowguns, one on each side, are preparing to attack. The zombie goblins then strike with their weapons and poison darts. Our hero comments that the goblins' paralyzing poison is quite lethal even to hobgoblins, especially if they're hit in the middle of combat. He knows the girl will only be able to dodge if she uses her Battle Premonition. The girl screams and activates her Battle Premonition ability. She then makes a horizontal spinning slash that hits both the poison darts and the zombie goblins. When our hero blinks, she's already on top of him with her sword ready to strike again. He barely escapes as her attack lands, destroying the floor where he had just been. She barely touches the ground and uses the momentum to leap at the boy again with another wild attack. Once again, she brings the sword down on Cha with that wicked smile of hers. Suddenly, something flies toward the girl just as she's about to strike our protagonist. It's a poison dart that hits the girl in the chest. The girl then realizes what just happened and stares at the poison dart in her chest. Our boy then says it's the side effect of using Battle Premonition, that this strategy wouldn't have been possible without that side effect. The zombie goblin who fired the blowgun stands still behind our hero in a window. As the girl begins to tremble, our hero says he's talking about the idea of shooting a poison dart through his own body. Harry begins to faint because of the effect of the poison in the arrow. She then drops her sword and her armor starts to dissolve as she falls to the ground. Shaq catches her before she hits the ground, saying that he finally caught her. The boy starts to lose feeling in his hands and wonders if the poison has already begun to spread. Then he asks the zombie to pick up that thing for him. He then points to the poison arrow lying on the ground. Then, using his skill, he begins to swallow the poison arrow, and his cistern window informs him that he gained resistance to paralyzing poison. Cho looks at the girl lying on the ground, unconscious from the poison. He says she has a really annoying ability. We then see Harry with her sword floating above her as a red moon shines in the sky. She then repairs the sword and wonders where she is. Someone picks up the sword and asks if she is the new owner. A man then sits in front of her and asks if she is the new owner of the dragon flesh sword. The man, looking more closely at her, realizes that the girl is just a child. She then asks who he is and if he is a hobgoblin too, while he replies that she is half right and half wrong. Looking up curious, she asks what that means. Suddenly, he's behind her with a blade at her neck, saying he wants to give her a warning. He says that the next time she uses him without proper preparation, he will swallow her whole. Harry then starts blinking her eyes. Next, Balkan says she's awake and our hero asks if she really is. Still dazed, she asks where they are and our boy says they're in the city on the 6th floor, which they just reached. The girl starts to feel embarrassed and asks why she's on his back, to which our hero asks if she really doesn't remember and says he's offended. On the door of a room, we see a plaque with the number 304, while we hear our boy saying that he's going to tell her slowly what happened. The boy says that after getting their equipment and doing a general health check on the 6th floor, it will go straight to the big city on the 10th. He says that every 10 levels there's a big city, and that to gain access to this big city, you have to defeat the boss on the 9th floor. The girl says she knows and that he means the Great Orc Warrior, and Balkan says that in terms of combat power, it's equal to a Lord-type monster. She smiles and says they'll be able to fight together and once she gets better, but our hero interrupts her and says no. Then our hero says that from now on, she will move separately from the two of them. She panics and asks what is going on and if they are going to abandon her. He then tells her no, but asks if she remembers the events that happened on the 5th floor, and she says no, that her memories were interrupted in the middle. Sha explains that her sword is a demonic sword, with abilities similar to ego swords, which grant absurd power but consume the user's senses. Then he says that she lost consciousness and focused her attacks on him, while she listens to the news in surprise. Continuing, he says that if she keeps using that unstable power, she'll disintegrate before the 100th floor, and that's why he's giving her homework. He then says that her homework will be to climb to the 10th floor without using the sword's power. She then thinks that she must stop using that unstable power of her sword and start cultivating her own powers. The girl smiles and says that it's fine, she'll do whatever it takes to become a suitable companion for him. He smiles back at the girl and says okay. They are then in the middle of a busy street in the city on the 6th floor. She says she will make good use of the robe he gave her, and the boy says that she's a hobgoblin, so it's good for her to hide her identity. The boy says not to rush because he has things to take care of on the 10th floor and will be there for a while anyway, and Balkan says that's a little sad. Harry says she'll meet them on the 10th floor soon, and he says he'll be waiting for her. Then they go their separate ways, thinking it doesn't matter how long it takes. A few days later, we see several orc corpses lying on the ground, completely defeated. Another orc yells in his language upon seeing someone in front of him. That someone is our hero, saying that the orc may be big, but he's no different from a goblin. Then, charging at the orc with a prepared kick, he tells him to get out of his way. Jumping swiftly onto the giant orc, he comes in with his powerful kick ready. The kick hits the orc square in the face. The force was so great that the orc was thrown, breaking the ground with the impact of his body when he fell. Balkan appears behind him saying there's nothing else to do there, and our boy tells him not to forget to create infernal soul knights from the orcs. The ghost tells him that creating waves of monsters has become routine these days, and the boy asks if he has a problem with that, to which he replies no. He says he even likes it, but adds that the boy is very cold for not mentioning Harry even once all this time, and our boy asks what he's talking about. The boy says he wouldn't have accepted her in the first place if he didn't think she could make it. She's strong and will succeed, even if it's just for her revenge. Then he asks the ghost to stop talking nonsense and get him more orcs, commenting that maybe the force wave was too weak since he still needs more. Balkan gets mad and says the kid is very rude to his elders and asks if he has no relatives. Sha then answers the ghost's question saying no, he doesn't. Surprised, Balkan asks why. He then explains that he's an orphan, that he grew up in an orphanage, and that Choi Kyung-hoon came from the same orphanage as him. Balkan then watches and lets out an "oh" like someone who just pieced together a puzzle in his head. Then the elder ghost puts one of his hands on the boy's shoulder. He says it's okay, that he supposes everyone has their story, and Cha clenches his teeth, wondering what kind of reaction that was. Balkan says that's why he's like that, and the boy says his personality has always been like that, and the ghost tells him to stop because he wants to hug him. A few orcs later, our boy receives a system window showing he's earned the title of Orc Slayer. They are then teleported to a different room. They appear on the 10th floor in the challenge room. The system welcomes them and says that to gain access to the interior of the 10th floor, they must defeat the boss monster, and failure will force them to return. Balkan looks to the side and says he's never seen that before, drawing the boy's attention. The system then shows a window with the names of people who pass and the time they took to pass that stage, and they notice that most did it in under a minute. Smiling, our boy says Balkan's name isn't there, and he replies that the boy's name isn't there either, and most of those listed are from the 4 Emperors' tribes. Right after, the boy asks if he doesn't think they can break the record today. Then the ghost smiles and says breaking the record would be great. A window says they can prepare for battle in advance, and our boy asks Balkan about it. A countdown appears, giving them 1 minute to prepare before the boss is summoned. The boy tells Balkan to use the Soul Knights to try to hold off the boss as soon as it appears, and meanwhile, he cracks his fingers and stretches. Balkan then asks if they can begin while several Soul Knights are summoned. Cha then slams his hand on the ground in preparation for battle. Next, magic circles appear and spread across the floor around him. Then he summons a magical spear on his back. Our hero thinks he'll show what an all-powerful being can do, and then says, elemental enchantment. The magic spear then begins to produce fire, earth, water, and lightning. He continues enchanting the spear with penetration, dexterity, strength, fatality. Finally, he thinks he can't forget that other one, and then enchants the weapon with demonic power as well. The spear then takes on a dark, cracked appearance with energy flowing through it. Now prepared for battle, we see the giant spear on his back and Balkan with the Infernal Soul Knights. The system window announces that the trial will begin shortly. We then see the countdown and our warriors prepared and focused. The system announces that the trial has begun and summons the orc warrior. The orc appears with his eyes glowing red. He, compared to our hero, is gigantic and carries an equally large axe on his shoulders. Balkan then tells the Infernal Soul Knights to charge at the monster as he summons chains of demonic power. The spirits quickly surround the orc warrior and begin chaining his arms and legs. Our hero, smiling, calls out the name of the spear, Gungnir. The spear then flies toward the orc warrior's face, who raises his hand in an attempt to stop it from hitting him. The spear pierces through the orc warrior's hand and face. The monster's body starts to sway and fall backward. Then it crashes heavily onto the ground with its head burning in black flames and its hands severed. The timer then stops at 96. Right after, he sees that he broke the record for fastest time with 0.96 seconds, and the window asks if he wants to enter his name. Smiling, he enters the name Diabolic Mask. The window is then updated, showing that the new fastest time record belongs to Diabolic Mask with 96 milliseconds. On the 8th floor, Harry sits at a table with her drink while people around her comment on the record being broken, and that it was in less than a second. She then sees the name of the one who broke the record and is startled, while another person asks if that isn't the Wave Slayer. As she looks at her drink, a girl thinks that she will work even harder. Balkan then laughs and says that they broke the record of the 4 emperors. Hugging our hero, he continues saying it's an achievement that not even the greatest of spirit masters could attain, and our boy says that in that case he's the ghost. Cha says they should hurry because he has a lot to do on the 16th floor, and Balkan agrees, saying they should really go since they have to take care of everything and wait for Haryu. A system window says he gained 5 points in all stats for entering the 10th floor. Another window says he unlocked access to the auction house. Next, we see a coin being tossed into the air. A blonde man who threw the coin catches it while looking at a system window. We then see that he's looking at the record for the 10th floor being broken by Diabolic Mask. With an evil smile, he wonders who this Diabolic Mask is. The 10th floor is the location of the first great city, not only that, but also the portal back to Earth. Because of that, many people who gave up on climbing stopped there, and that city is the largest one anyone encounters until reaching the 100th floor. Cha says he sold all the reward items he earned and asks if he should only buy small items like potions. Balkan says that even with access to the auction house, common item shops are very crowded, and our boy agrees. The boy says that's because a lot of people actually live there and that not everything can be found in the auction house. Then they pass by a fruit stand where the owner is shouting that it's the Golden Lich stand. A little further ahead, they come across a blacksmith asking them if they need new weapons from the Golden Lich. In another spot, a girl invites him to spend the night at the Golden Lich Hotel. Balkan then asks the boy what the heck is up with this Golden Lich thing everywhere, and the boy says he really must not know. He tells the ghost that the Golden Lich Company has been the largest enterprise inside the tower for many years now, and Balkan asks what Golden Lich means. The boy says it's the name of a person, and that he's a top executive in the tower, and practically every item sold or bought passes through his hands. The ghost questions whether the boy has something to do there. He responds yes, that he needs to get a sponsor. Balkan then asks who the heck would sponsor him. The boy says he's looking at the sponsor, that his seal is stamped everywhere you look. Startled, the ghost says it can't be who he's thinking of. Our hero then replies that it's exactly that he's going to make the Golden Lich their sponsor. They are then welcomed to the Golden Lich Company by a receptionist. The girl says that there they can sell anything profitable, whether weapons, potions, rewards, or information. They can buy and sell everything there. Then he asks him to take a number and wait, which she does while holding a ticket with the number 18. After a while, his number is called for service, and a young man named Halshin says he is responsible for counter number 3 and asks how he can help him. Our hero, placing a bag of money on Halshin's desk, says he wants to buy something, and the other man says that's fine, he just needs his name. Then, pulling the mask from the bag, Chase says he doesn't feel comfortable giving him his name. Showing the mask to the man, he asks if that is enough to identify him. Halshin is extremely surprised and starts to say, stammering, that he is the demonic mask. The boy asks the attendant to keep his voice down and says there is a reason he wears that thing outside. Halshin says he understands and that he will check the money now. At the end of the count, the attendant says he has a total of 3,000 gold, that this was the total amount of money he earned after defeating the waves of monsters. The attendant asks what he wants to buy with such a huge amount of money. Then our hero says he wants to buy a meeting with the Golden Lich. Once again astonished, Halshin asks if that's really what he wants. The attendant wonders if the boy has lost his mind or gone crazy and wonders if the rumors about the demonic mask being a scoundrel in the tower are true or not. Cha asks if this isn't the place one should go if they want to buy anything, while the attendant starts to stammer again. Then he apologizes and says that transaction is impossible. Our boy asks why it is impossible, and the attendant says there are 2 reasons, that Mr. Golden Lich is an extremely busy man. Cha then calmly asks what the second reason would be. Then Halshin looks at the gold and says the amount he's offering is too low. that even though 3,000 gold is quite a lot, it's still too little for the Lich's time. Our hero wonders to himself if it's really impossible, while putting his hand on the cheese and thinking for a moment. Halshin begins to say it's probably best for the man to leave, and our boy interrupts saying that if that's the case. Then he throws the question of how much it would take to meet the manager of that place. While climbing the staircase, Balkan says he really is an evil brat, confronting a mere employee like that just to talk to the owner, and then asks what poor Halshin ever did to deserve that. Our hero then asks the ghost if he has any other ideas on how to reach the Golden Lich, and after a few seconds of silence, he mutters, "That's what he thought." Then, as he climbs the stairs, he sees a richly carved and painted door and wonders if that's the right place. He knocks on the door twice and introduces himself as the demonic mask, and a voice inside tells him to enter. Our boy, with the hobgoblin mask around his neck, opens the double door and sees someone sitting in a chair in front of him. The man introduces himself as the manager of the Golden Lich branch on the 10th floor and says his name is Puppet, and it's a pleasure to meet him, Mr. Super Rookie. He then says that it has come to their attention that he would like to meet Mr. Golden Lich, and our boy says yes, and that it seems he isn't here. The man apologizes and says that with the money he offered, but is interrupted by our boy, who stretches out his hand and says he'll make a new offer. He tells Puppet to call the Golden Lich first, and that the man will definitely want to sponsor him after meeting him. Puppet then says that he's increasing his value through arrogance. Then, standing up and walking toward our hero, he says he's heard rumors about him and doesn't find it amusing when he belittles his name. Puppet's hands are behind his back, and from one of his fingers a thin magical thread extends. He thinks that with his puppet ability he can freely manipulate anyone caught in his strings and apologizes, but says the boy will have to leave his office. Our hero then asks about arrogance. He manages to grab the almost invisible magical threads. Then he shouts that he is also increasing his value through arrogance, and throwing the puppet hands to the floor, asks if that is enough. Astonished, Puppet thinks that ability works even on an adventurer who reached floor 180. How was he able to do that? Puppet, putting his hands together, says very well and tells them to proceed then. He then clasps both his hands, and the environment around them changed. Suddenly, they are in an entirely white place with a different kind of floor. The manager then says that this must be the first time he's seeing that place, and begins to speak when our hero interrupts him, saying it's the imaginary world. He then continues saying it's a new infinite world created by separating souls from bodies. Puppet then wonders how the hell someone who's only climbed 10 floors knows things like that. The man says that if he knows that, then he must also know that the rules of reality don't apply there, and that he can only rely on the experience and power of his soul to fight. Surrounded by power, he continues saying that if he wins a fight against him in that world, then he'll personally get the meeting with Mr. Golden Lich. Threads of magical string appear and quickly entangle our boy. Shay smiles and asks if he really thinks he has any chance against the experience and power of his soul. Clenching one of the magical threads in his fist, our boy asks if he hasn't realized it yet, that the other man's ability doesn't work on him. Puppet still can't believe how a 10th floor adventurer can resist his ability. He then thinks the boy must have the mental fortitude of a floor 200 adventurer or higher. Then he tells our hero that very well, he admits the boy is on the same level as him. When Puppet snaps his fingers, the world transforms again, and Cha is on a beach with waves coming toward him. Our boy then, as he's hit by the wave, wonders if this is what it seems to be. From the water, dolls begin to rise. We then see at least 4 puppet dolls. In the blink of an eye, our hero is completely surrounded by puppet dolls. The man standing among many dolls says that this right here is his puppet doll army. The eyes of the puppet dolls begin to glow as Puppet says that in that world, experience becomes power, and that those dolls were created from that. He goes on to say that those dolls are the product of his experiences climbing beyond floor 100 and reinforced with mana, and that each of those puppet dolls has the strength equivalent to an adventurer who climbed to floor 50. He then concludes by saying that from the moment they entered the imaginary world, the victory had already been declared. Next, he orders the puppet dolls to attack, and some of them jump toward Cha. One of them gets very close and aims a punch at our hero's face. The puppets lash onto Cha and begin to pile on top of him as Puppet says the battle is over. Then he tells our hero not to be scared because injuries from an imaginary world don't carry over to the real world. Suddenly, an explosion occurs behind him and several of his puppets are thrown into the air. Startled, Puppet looks back and asks what the hell that magic was. We then see a dark smoke engulfing the place. Next, a giant shadow begins to rise as we hear the phrase, "Rise." What appears to be a giant dark skeletal mage begins to emerge from the earlier shadows. Puppet recognizes it as a lich mage and wonders what a floor 100 boss monster is doing there. As he hears a voice saying that, as expected, it wasn't going to be that easy, he sees his puppets melting. Our hero, smiling, says that he supposes that as long as they're in the imaginary world, it takes some time to revive the dead. The boy then says the other has a puppet army, and that it seems he still doesn't know what a real army is. He then continues saying that now is a good time for him to learn. As countless undead begin to appear around our hero, he says that this is what a true army looks like. He then says that it's true, the moment they stepped into that imaginary world, the winner had already been decided. And that, however, the winner was never him. Puppet thinks that the Lich, the Dullahan, and several others are boss monsters from floor 100 and above and wonders how that is possible. He then asks himself how he does that. Sweating with tears in his eyes, he asks who the demonic mask really is. Puppet then finds himself surrounded by ghostly knights and absurd monsters coming toward him. As the knight's spears get very close to his face, he screams in fear. And he returns from the imaginary world to the real world, sweating cold and panting heavily. He falls to his knees and wonders how they got out of the imaginary world if he never canceled the magic. Puppet wonders if the boy had taken control of the imaginary world for himself at some point. The boy tells him to stop being a crybaby and get up already. Then, looking down at Puppet, he asks if he forgot about the bet they made. With an evil smile in his eyes, our hero says he had promised to let the boy meet the Golden Lich. Our hero then hands a letter to Puppet. The man then asks if just that letter is really enough, and he says yes, and asks that he give only that to the Golden Lich. He then says he has no right to say anything since he lost the bet, but if the Golden Lich doesn't reply to the letter, there's nothing he can do to help him. Then our boy says Puppet shouldn't worry. He's sure the Golden Lich will respond. At the company's door, the manager and Halshin say they will contact him at his accommodations when they receive a reply to the letter. Balkan looks astonished at the two men, while they wish him a good and safe trip back home. The ghost says it's already getting dark and asks if they will return to the room they're staying in to rest. Cha asks what he means by that since they still have to go to the next location, and Balkan asks if there are still places to visit. Our hero says that until the Golden Lich replies, it would be a waste of time to just sit around waiting. Meanwhile, at the guild house of the White Devourer, someone is telling another that it's a waste of time to be there and they should be improving their skills instead. In the first floor lobby, a girl asks another what the highest floor she's been to is, and she says 57. The blonde says they promise good weapon rewards if they perform well, and the other says that's why they should go back to climbing the floors soon. The blonde girl then slams the table and says she can't understand why the hell they have to guard the lobby on the 10th floor. She then adds by saying who would be crazy enough to just walk into one of the Holy Land's guilds. Suddenly, our boy opens the front doors of the guild and walks in. One of the girls welcomes him to the White Devourer Guild, and the other asks how they can help him. Smiling mischievously, our hero asks, "Help him?" He then says that climbing the tower is so hard and that he'd like to join the guild. The blonde asks if he's there to join the guild, and the other says he startled her a bit. The two of them stop to think that if they bring in a promising recruit to the guild, they might seriously improve their standing within it. They then begin acting ultra cordial toward him, and one of them asks if anyone told him about the guild and everything else. Our boy says no, that he came there on his own and heard they are a sub-guild of a super guild, so he came to visit. The two are then happy to see he's a complete beginner and probably doesn't know anything. The blonde then asks if he can show them his ability while our hero pretends not to understand for a few seconds. He then asks for a coin, and the girl, grabbing a coin, asks if that's all he needs. Smiling maliciously, our hero tells them to watch that coin closely. Next, he bends the gold coin with just two of his fingers. The blonde is extremely surprised and says he just crushed a coin using only his bare hands, and the other says that's amazing. The boy continues saying he can also do some simple magic, and they are shocked. He then confirms that yes, he can do magic and says he can do simple things like making fire with his hands. They are then surprised watching his hands catch fire and say the boy is full of little tricks. They turn around and start whispering to each other, saying they hit the jackpot and he might turn into a big fish if they mentor him under their wings. The little blonde says he's quite handsome too, while the brunette is shocked and asks if that's the kind of guy the other likes. Our boy thinks that he's probably stalled long enough and that it's time. Then a sound of something large breaking happens behind them and they get startled. A man opens the door behind him and says they have a problem. The man says it looks like there's some kind of giant ghost monster destroying the village outside. He then continues saying that all adventurers who have passed the 50th floor are being summoned and ask them to come with him. They then complain about why things have to happen at that moment and tell him not to move and they'll be right back. The door then closes, leaving our hero alone at the entrance of the guild house. The boy then starts tearing down a red curtain from the door. Next, he puts on the mask and wonders if it's already time to become the demonic mask again. He then uses the curtain as a red cape and becomes enveloped in his power. People run in panic, telling others not to go near the market street, that when they get close, something explodes and is destroyed. Two people are facing what appears to be a ghost, and one tells the other their attacks aren't working. Balkan, then clearly acting, begins to say with a trembling voice that he feels so resentful. The girls think that Ghost is super weird. The ghost thinks that he's never acted in his hundreds of years of existence, so his appearance as a haunting must be terrible. Once again, Balkan curses Shijinhyuk for humiliating the first soul master in existence like that and says he will never forgive the boy. Elsewhere, our hero kicks someone in the stomach. The man takes the hit and flies meters and meters away from the force of the blow. He crashes into the wall behind him after being struck. Our hero then asks the man, saying if he's not here, then where would he be? Another person comes out of a room asking why the hell there's so much noise and what was that impact sound just now. Then he gets startled when he sees who is standing in front of his door. He begins to ask who he is and how he got there. But he is interrupted by our hero's hand around his neck. Holding the man by the neck, he enters the room and says that room has a lot of books and maybe what he's looking for is in there. Then, calmly, he asks the man being choked if they are a sub-guild of the Holy Land Guild and says he's looking for something. He continues saying that he wants a list of all the sub-guilds and the places they are located and finishes by saying that he clearly intends to destroy all of them. The man being choked says he'll be safe somewhere in that tower after making someone from the Ninstars his enemy. Our hero thanks him for his concern but says that at that moment, he shouldn't be worrying about others, but about himself. He then continues saying that the man might indeed end up dying there if he doesn't give him the information he needs. The boy then begins to raise his trembling hand. Next, he points behind and says that the information he's looking for is right there on that table. We then hear a sound of a bone breaking as we hear our hero thanking the man for saving him a bit of time. He then drops the man on the floor and heads toward the table where the list he was looking for was sent to be. Our hero sees some papers on the table and picking one up begins to think about something. He finally has the name of all the guilds under those Dan Fallon brothers. Next, he says that Kane and Carmen can wait, that he will crush them all slowly. We see the paper with the list fall to the floor, catching fire, and our hero thinks that eventually he will get to them. Then, as he leaves the room and the flames spread, he thinks that one guild is already gone. Next, we see the Golden Lich closing a book in his hands. It then says that the next is a report from the 10th floor branch that was sent by Puppet. While flipping through the report, an envelope falls from between the pages. The man finds it strange to see a sealed envelope like that falling to the floor and hidden within the report. He wonders why Puppet sent him a letter when he already sent a report, then picks up the envelope and begins to read the contents of the letter. Then, after a while, he is in shock and wonders how the hell the demonic mask knows about that. While people try to put out the fire in the White Devourer Guild, someone says it looks like it was arson and that everyone who tried to stop the intruder died. The identity of the attacker is still unknown, so Beck Julio, leader of the White Devourer Guild, says the man who tried to apply to the guild moments earlier is his suspect. The leader then asks the two girls what he looked like, and the blonde starts describing him as being slim. Then one of them says he was a handsome man with a pointy nose, and the other says he was an ugly man with a stubby nose. One then looks at the other, and they ask each other at the same time what the other just said, while the leader watches the scene from the middle. The blonde girl then seems to realize what really happened. Then, remembering him, she thinks that either she or the other may have been victims of hallucinatory magic. Our boy is in his room with a cup of tea in hand when Balkan comes up through the floor saying he's back, and the boy compliments him, saying he did a good job. Laughing, he tells the ghost that he heard a lot of rumors about a super scary apparition, and Balkan, annoyed, asks if he's making fun of him. The man then asks him if he managed to handle things on his own without being discovered. He says yes, hallucinatory magic is cheap but works well in those places, and says that each person who saw him would see a slightly different face. Balkan then asks why he's empty-handed, and the boy points to his own head and says it's all in there. The ghost says fine then, just as someone knocks at the door. He then asks if he ordered room service, and the boy says obviously not as he puts the teacup on the table. The boy says he'll count to 3 and tells Balkan to grab them, while putting on his mask. Then he counts to 3 and opens the door at the same instant that the ghost unleashes his demonic chains to grab the person on the other side. Someone screams while being wrapped in chains. They then notice it's just an ordinary man, tied up in chains and lying on the floor. Our hero then, looking at the man, starts asking who he is, and the guy says yes, his name is Halshin, and he's from the Golden Lich Company. The boy follows by saying that Mr. Puppet sent him there. Then the man tells him that Mr. Golden Lich has come to the 10th floor. Some time later, at the Golden Lich Company, he sees numerous warriors in the same golden armor standing still in front of a room. Then our hero begins to ask where the Golden Lich is, and someone interrupts saying they don't know how he got the information contained in the letter, but that he admires the audacity of playing with luck like that with him. Then the Golden Lich continues by saying the boy will pay a huge price for that, and that he can't allow someone who knows that to continue existing inside the tower. Our boy then thinks that it's been a long time since they last met Golden Lich. Turning his back, he says to no one in particular to take him to his room and to keep him alive. The warriors then say yes and prepare for combat. Then our hero asks if he really wants to fight. One of the knights says to form a line and block the boy's attacks at any cost. As he was saying for the others to follow him, he's interrupted. Our boy, while punching the man in the face, asks if he's stupid and why he was revealing their plan out loud like that. One of the other warriors calls out to the commander, who is now in front of them with a bleeding nose. Our boy then quickly strikes all the warriors present in the room and flies toward the Golden Lich. Up in the air, with a spear and a shield in hand, our boy, ready to launch an attack, asks if the Golden Lich will fight him. The man then looks back and sees our boy flying toward him, and gold coins begin to float on the table behind him. The gold then rushes like a wave behind the Golden Lich. Our hero then wonders if that's gold power. Several gold coins fly toward our hero, who who defends himself with a shield but feels the weight of the attack. The Golden Lich's ability is to summon gold and use it with his mana. The Golden Lich's attack continues, forcing our boy to take cover behind his shield. Opening his shield and spear, our boy asks if that's all he's got. The Golden Lich then says of course not. While our hero is in the air, several golden arrows fly up from the ground toward him. He says that this is a wave of gold containing all the gold of that branch and says that even for him, being hit by that could prove fatal. Then, a great explosion happens. Golden Lich, looking up, says it's over. Next, the tip of a golden spear appears in his neck and our hero says no, it's not over yet. He adds that he doesn't lose when it comes to speed. Halshin screams for his lord, Golden Lich. Removing the spear from his throat, he looks at our hero asking if he thinks he would let himself be suppressed like that by a guy like him. Then he hears the boy say no, he cannot kill him. And our hero continues saying that the other hasn't heard yet where he got that information from, and that's why he told the men to capture him alive. The boy then says he will tell the source of the information and Golden Lich asks him to follow. Then they enter an extremely luxurious room and our boy says it must be very nice to have money in a room like that. Golden Lich places his hand on the walls with his power activated. Countless golden spikes emerge from the ground and walls toward our hero's face. Golden Lich says that room is sealed from the outside by his magic and that neither gods nor demons can enter. Then he tells him to speak. Who leaked the information that he is the owner of the auction house? The auction house is a massive buying and selling system that exists inside the tower, so it didn't just appear naturally. Someone created it as their property, and that someone is the Golden Lich. And of course, if that truth is revealed to the public, the foundation of his empire would collapse. Golden Lich then asks our hero. Screaming, he asks who told our hero that he is the owner of the auction house. Our boy then says he lied, that no one told him. Golden Lich then creates a giant golden halberd saying it's not going to be a problem for the boy. Striking a battle pose, he finishes his sentence saying it's not going to be a problem for him to lose an arm or a leg. Our hero sees the axe part of the halberd falling toward him while he is surrounded by golden spikes. Finally, our hero releases Balkan, who bursts out from his body, breaking the golden spikes and the halberd of Golden Lich. He's surprised to see a soul knight. Then he says that only spirit masters can summon soul knights and begins asking if he is one. Our hero slowly removes his mask and asks if Golden Lich recognizes him now. Then smiling, he says it's time to pay back what he owes and calls him William. Then scared, Golden Lich asks if he is still alive and calls him Chijin Hyuk. The mission on the 600th floor, the betrayal of the Ninsters, Bel's gift. And beyond that, he even resurrected himself. Balkan, beside the boy, finally understands what his story is. Then sitting facing each other, William says he still doesn't believe he is Cha, and the boy says he also took a while to believe it. Then Golden Lich asks what the boy wants. Our hero says first he needs some money from the Golden Lich company and asks him to sign a sponsorship contract with him. Golden Lich says he talks as if the company were his, and Cha rebuts, saying the company is practically his anyway. Then he asks who gave him items from the upper floors back then when he was just a wandering merchant. Cha then, pointing to himself, says that he is the founding contributor and largest shareholder of the Golden Lich companies. William then says that shameless attitude really makes it seem like he is talking to Chijin Hyuk, and the boy says he truly is. Golden Lich says he has to give something in exchange for the sponsorship even if he is really Chijin Hyuk. The boy then offers information, literally all the information he collected so far in his speculations. Then making some gold coins float in his hands, Golden Lich says to name a price then and asks him to tell everything. He says the Ninistar intentionally betrayed him, which shows that they must have someone behind manipulating them because they are all strong individuals with even bigger egos. He continues saying that there are only 4 powers in the tower capable of manipulating and commanding the Ninstar. In shock, William asks if it's the 4 emperors. Then he thinks they want to maintain the superiority of their races and that if some prodigy from another race climbs the tower, it could be complicated for them to maintain it. Then they get rid of everyone who plans or has the potential to climb to the top of the tower. And in return, they make those who help them lords of the higher floors, and our boy says that's exactly it. Next, Golden Lich says that it's only speculation, with only him as the victim so far. Our boy then asks if he knows the Hobgoblin village on the 100th floor. Balkan says that they, by chance, know the only survivor of that disaster, and our boy then says her name is Haryu, and that she's a young hobgoblin. As an orc's head flies through the air, we see Golden Lich ask, "A young hobgoblin?" Haryu continues cutting off the head of a giant orc, giant compared to her, in battle on the lower floors. Then she thinks, not yet, she still needs more strength. We see her with blood in her mouth, suffering in pain as she finishes her thought, if she wants to defeat that thing. Our girl is lying on the ground in a crater caused by some strike she took, as we see the warrior orc in front of her and the system saying that time is up. 10th floor, challenge rune, another window shows that she failed the mission. She is then forced to return to the safe zone of the 9th floor. The girl then, with her sword planted in the ground in front of her, thinks that she needs to be much stronger than she is now if she wants to see her brother again. Suddenly, a man floats behind her saying she knows what she has to do, that all she needs is to use him. The man asks if she wants to run and find him soon and continues saying that he can handle that orc warrior easily if she leaves it to him. She then replies saying no, she won't use him, the dragon flesh sword. Then the girl remembers the moment they said goodbye and says she promised her brother she wouldn't use the sword's power. The girl then says she needs to get strong by herself and asks him not to speak to her, if it's just to interfere. Golden Lich then says it's strange that in the middle of all that chaos, the only things saved were a young hobgoblin and a single sword. So obviously their target was precisely that hobgoblin and the sword. Our boy says he's right again, that they probably attacked the tribe just to kill that girl. Basically, they're cutting the problem at its root. Golden Lich thinks that this news could end up destroying the entire foundation of the tower, but if true, it would make all the pieces fit together. Our hero stands up while saying his goal is revenge. He goes on saying he will kill all the Ninstar, and that if the 4 emperors are behind them, he'll kill them too. Next, as we see the thoughtful face of Golden Lich, our boy says, those who killed his family. Suddenly, he returns to his childhood, a boy under the rain with a shocked face. This boy is clearly the only survivor of some attack and is surrounded by several bodies lying around him. We then see some magic fading from the room, leaving it less golden as our hero watches a lowered head William. Ball asks what the two are talking about while the 9-tailed fox asks if he's into men now that the magic hiding them has vanished. Golden Lich then says very well, he will buy his information, and our boy, smiling, says he made an excellent choice. Next, Golden Lich says he has a condition, that he proves it's really him, right here and now. Our boy says he thought he already trusted him and asks if they really have to take things this far. Golden Lich says he's a merchant and trust is as valuable as money, and you can't buy or sell anything without full trust. Then he calls Golden Lich an annoying idiot and calls out for Ball. He asks if the demon can help prove his identity and asks if a handshake is enough. Bell then yells who would accept that with just a handshake, and that if he offers 3 handshakes, maybe Bo would accept. Next, Bo says he really is the right guy and tells the other to stop doubting our boy, saying he stakes his honor on it. Sighing, Golden Lich says there's no way to doubt anymore if even Bale says so. The man then says he'll believe him, and that it's good to see him again, demonic mask. Then our boy says he hopes one day they can greet each other again with their real names. Our hero says he needs his help as a sponsor, and Golden Lich says he'll bring him anything he wants as long as it can be bought with gold. He says he needs every kind of weapon that exists in the tower, and that since he's going to do this, bring extra copies as well. The other one says he is a spirit master and asks why on earth he wants so many weapons, and then asks if he's planning to start a war there on the 10th floor. Then opening his status window to the Golden Lich, he asks if he has ever heard of the subclass called Almighty. Golden Lich is completely shocked to realize that Almighty was a subclass. He says that, as the name suggests, he can become a master in any class and can become proficient in any weapon as if he had used it for many years. Golden Lich says that if what the boy says is true, that version of him is even stronger than the previous one, and the potential of that version is immeasurable. He finishes his thought knowing that his role now is to help him unlock his full potential. Then he shouts asking if Puppet is outside. Puppet opens the door and says yes and asks if they're done talking. Lich tells him to buy all the weapons from the 10th floor and asks him to use other companies' names, so it won't be obvious that he is the one buying. Then he says to package them with the VIP package. Sometime later, Puppet returns apologizing for the delay and says he bought all the items they requested, all carrying a coat in his hands. Our boy sees a piece of clothing and says that's just a common item and that he asked for many other things, but the Golden Lich says Puppet put everything inside it. The boy looks at Lich and asks where he put the other items. He then explains that the piece of clothing there is a subspace coat. Then Lich says that every thread of that clothing is connected to a subspace, and as long as the objects are inanimate, he can store an absurd amount of items in there. Besides that, the temperature, size, and color can be altered as the owner prefers, and it also has some embedded protection spells. Also, all the effects of accessories will remain active as long as they are within the subspace of the clothing. He finishes by saying it's an extremely rare item that only a few adventurers possess and tells the boy to use it carefully. The boy says he's the one who should be worried since he'll be the one covering the expenses of our hero. We see a person coming out of the portal with 2 others. The one in the middle resting his sword on the ground, panting heavily, says they're safe and that he thought he was going to die. The other says that although he didn't gain any achievement and since it was part of the challenge, he was saved thanks to the item support from Sumte. The third person says they use all the resources they had to reach the 10th floor and asks how they'll continue climbing now. Then the one in the middle says it's okay because there's a branch of the White Devourer Guild there in the city and that they'll be supplied once they find his older brother. He then thinks that it seems the guy he met on the first floor now calls himself Super Rookie or Devil Mask. The boy thinks he will make a point of dealing with him for daring to threaten and embarrass him like that. He then shouts for them to move forward, that from that point on they will be in a battle for revenge. Sometime later, he and his 2 friends are dumbfounded and negatively surprised. The boy then wonders what happened when he sees the White Devourer Guild house completely burned down. Later, they say that all guild members retreated to the 30th floor and he lost contact with his brother and asks Sumtate what they will do now. One of the friends says they have few skills and little money to keep climbing the tower, and the other asks how they'll get to the 30th like that. They then start questioning Sumtae about what they'll do next and how they'll fix this, saying they trusted and followed him this far. The other guy says that besides being the brother of someone in a good guild, he has no special skills and asks again what they will do. The boy thinks that they should shut their useless mouths. He continues thinking that the two of them are useless and that if it weren't for him, they would never have even gotten close to the 10th floor. Then he thinks that this would be a great opportunity to get rid of those two useless ones, but something interrupts his thoughts and catches his attention. They see a two-tailed cat approaching them. One of the boys asks what that is if it's a fox, while the creature has one eye closed and seems to be trembling and staggering. Sumtae says that if it's looking for food, it should leave because they have nothing to offer. The cat then comes closer and licks the boy's boot. He then reacts with disgust and says he warned the creature to stay away. Then, calling it a disgusting thing, he stands up and kicks the animal away. The creature falls a few meters away. The boy stands up and says the creature is practically dead and that he's already under a lot of stress. He then goes up to the creature and gives it another kick. He then stomps on the creature over and over again. The boy starts shouting with each kick, asking why things never seem to go right in his life. The only thing that showed up for him was a damn dog, and that he doesn't even have any luck. Suddenly, at the end of the alley, a bright light shines. A sword flies by and cuts off the leg of the boy who is kicking the cat. The boy seems to take a few seconds to understand what just happened. A man approaches and says that that's enough and that it will take longer to heal if he keeps pushing it. The boy then screams, seeing what happened to his leg and asking who the hell did that to him. Devil Mask then arrives and says it was him and that he is the new owner of that fox he was kicking. Our hero says that was the last thing and that he needs to go to the occupation transition room because he needs to acquire more soul power. Balkan asks why he desires that if he's already a soul master. He says he got his occupation by tricking the system and using memories from his past life, and that he can't gain any more soul power through training anymore. The ghost says he hadn't really thought about that, and our boy says that first, they should have a good night's sleep at Golden Lich's expense. The nine-tailed fox's system window says it feels something. Meanwhile, Bull's window tells him to look behind. The two then see the nine-tailed fox's window standing in front of an alley, as if it's looking. He comes closer and asks it what it's doing there. It then turns its window and asks for his help. The fox says that its kind is in danger. Then we see the sword flying toward the boy's leg, and it cuts off the boy's leg, the same leg he was using to kick a fox. All the scenes we saw earlier were because of this moment. The boy then thinks he never imagined meeting one of the nine-tailed fox's cubs around there. We see a mission window appear in front of him saying that he must rescue the little fox and take care of it until it is 100% recovered. The boy on the ground asks if that mask is Devil Mask's. Then our hero says he thinks he's met that boy before. The guy on the ground screams, asking if he's trying to provoke him. Suddenly, the two friends appear behind our hero and leap to attack him. She then jumps to dodge the attacks of the other two. The two boys, seeing Devil Mask vanish, wonder where he could have gone in a second. The boy then lands a few meters away with the fox in his arms. Our hero then asks them if they had any idea what that fox was before they started stomping on it, and says it might have been the last bit of luck in their lives. Sumtae, standing while leaning on his sword, says he doesn't need to know that and that he's going to cut off one of his legs too. Our boy then asks the nine-tailed fox what he should do with those kids. The system window with the nine-tailed fox's message says to kill them. Then Sumtae's two friends run toward Devil Mask. Our hero, turning quickly, tells them not to forget their stuff. Sumtae sees his own leg flying toward his face when our hero turned quickly and threw it. As the leg gets closer to them, our hero uses his body explosion skill to blow up the leg piece he threw. Looking at the small fox in his arms, our boy asks if she's one of the nine-tailed fox's cubs. Already in his room, he asks what they should do now, and someone else says they need to give her a name first, that they can't keep calling her Fox Cub. The boy then suggests the name FUB, which would be the English abbreviation for Fox Cub, but the cub doesn't seem to like it. Balkan says that the little fox might crush his head when she grows up, and the nine-tailed fox's window says yes, she will do that. The boy then asks if he has a better idea, and Balkan says he will demonstrate his vast experience in naming things and people. Then the ghost says that since they want something strong and fierce, they should call her Tiger. As everyone goes silent, Balkan says that if they didn't like it, they should just say so instead of staying quiet. The boy then says to call her Two Tails since she really only has two tails, and asks if that isn't the best option. Balkan then starts saying that if he thinks that Picky Fox when it comes to names is going to pick that one, he's mistaken. The fox then seems extremely happy with the name Two Tails. The boy points out that she really seemed to like the name. Then the mission menu appears saying that he has partially completed the given mission. The little fox then begins to concentrate energy on her forehead. She then makes a mask appear in front of our hero. He then sees the item Fox Mask, which says that when he wears the mask, He can use the fox abilities, and they evolve along with the adventurer. The boy thinks that item is similar to the hobgoblin mask and thinks he's sure the mask must have many abilities. He thinks that seduction is definitely the strongest among them, that if you want to dominate an enemy without even touching them, there's no better skill than that. The nine-tailed fox's window says the mission is not yet over and reminds him that he has to help the little fox fully recover. She shows part 2 of the mission, which says he has to feed the little fox 999 livers. Balkan is surprised to see the number of livers, and our boy asks if they have to be fresh and if he'll have to do the whole hunt by himself. He thinks that if he considers that the price for the mask, he guesses he has no other choice. The boy says there must be some benefit he can gain from that improvement in closeness between them, and then looks at her window, which gets startled. She then says he shouldn't ask such obvious questions. Balkan says that now that everything's settled, he'll go out for a walk. Our boy says he plans to go to the occupation transition tower in the morning and tells him he can find him there if he feels like he'll be late, and the ghost says that's fine. Balkan then flies over the city during the night. He says that it really is as he expected, that it's very different from when he climbed the tower. Suddenly, he feels a chill run down his spine. He knows he's felt that sensation before and stops on top of a building and starts looking around. Balkan spots someone on the street right below him. Then he thinks that it's someone from the dragon tribe with those horns and that fierce mana. There's no doubt out where he's from. The man sighs and then says that he wants to kill all dragons. Balkan is surprised to hear the man say he wants to kill all dragons. Among all 4 emperors, dragons are the tribe with the most self-love, bordering on narcissism, and no dragon would hear a man say that and not kill him. The ghost grows concerned with the information that dragons will soon descend to the 10th floor. 2 adventurers talk among themselves, saying that dragon is standing there again, that he's been doing that for days, just standing there muttering words no one can understand. Balkan thinks that if he's been standing there like that for days, why haven't the dragons taken any action against him, and why? The dragon then turns to the side and seems to notice the ghost, and meanwhile Balkan wonders if the dragon sensed his mana. He then asks if he is that spirit who's been going around scaring people and acting strangely. Balkan then asks him what that evil spirit he was talking about is. He then descends to where the dragon is and says that since the other can't recognize his power, he can at least roughly measure his power. Then he calls him Dear Rookie Dragon. The dragon grits his teeth and asks how he dares. He then proceeds by asking how he dares to call him a dragon and asks if he's desperate to dig his own grave. The next day, our boy is heading to the occupation transition tower with the fox on his shoulders. Our hero thinks that Balkan still hasn't returned and isn't responding to his telepathic call either, and wonders where the hell he went. Then he opens the doors of the transition tower, asking if anyone is there. A person beside him then welcomes him. The man introduces himself as Challenger Ken and says that he is responsible for the occupation transition tower. Our hero says that the place is empty, and the man replies that many have not yet awakened their mana power on the 10th floor, and that lately there have only been flies there. She then asks if he can use the Necromancer room, and the man says yes, but he needs to prove that he has awakened his mana and asks him to fill that crystal ball in his hands with mana. The boy asks if he just needs to fill that thing with mana, and the man responds yes, and begins instructing him on how to use his mana. But our hero interrupts him by placing his hand on the crystal ball and letting his mana flow, dancing between the crystal ball and his body. The examiner wonders how the hell a 10th floor adventurer can have that much mana. The ball then begins to crack under the pressure of our hero's mana. Then it shatters, throwing the examiner to the ground and exploding into pieces. The examiner looks at the boy and says he broke the crystal ball. Our boy ignores the man's question and asks again where the necromancy room is. We then see a shadowy orc, clearly an infernal soul knight. The dragon seems to slice the infernal soul knight orc in half. Balkan flies while the dragon remains on the ground, having just cut an orc in half. Our ghost thinks that the situation doesn't look good for him because the use of mana and summons is limited due to Chat not being nearby. The dragon yells from the ground, asking how long he's going to keep hiding behind summons and that it's time for him to face him head on. Someone in the crowd notices his horns, and another confirms it. The man is clearly from the dragon tribe. The dragon turns to them and tells them to shut up and asks who the hell they're calling a dragon as the desperate people run away. Balkan notes that the man is clearly a dragon, but he's been acting extremely sensitive to the word dragon. It's almost as if his body and soul are operating differently, and he wonders if that's even possible. Then he remembers Shay's case. Balkan thinks his researcher's curiosity is boiling. Our ghost then grabs a soul and begins stretching it. The dragon realizes he's using a soul as if it were a weapon. Balkan says he needs to see with his own eyes what's inside that dragon. He points at the man and uses his soul laser ability, but the dragon dodges it. The dragon then says that now he can see that Balkan isn't just any evil spirit. Balkan says that what he's using is called soul power, in which he uses souls instead of mana, and not even that kid can do that yet. Then he says he's Balkan, the first soul master, and that he'll make the dragon regret ever coming to him. The dragon asks, while dodging our ghost's attacks, if they're introducing themselves. Then he draws his sword in front of our ghost and says, "Fine then." The dragon makes a sword attack, which Balkan defends with the soul he was using as a weapon. The dragon introduces himself as the dragon slayer Hendrik and says he'll send the ghost to God, while Balkan questions the title of dragon slayer. Balkan thinks that the title of dragon slayer is one that can only be earned after killing a dragon and wonders how such a powerful soul like that one. He continues, finishing the thought with, ended up trapped inside a dragon. Then, from the clash of their attacks, a red dragon made of energy soars like a pillar into the sky. Balkan thinks that he let his guard down, assuming it was just a young dragon, if the soul inside is that of an adventurer from the 700th or 800th floor. Even with the title of Dragon Slayer, he couldn't guarantee victory, not even if Chow were there. The ghost then thinks that in that case, he'll have to take other measures. Hendrik asks, while charging at the ghost, if he really thinks he'll let himself be hit by that. Then Balkan uses a new ability called Soul Link, and spiritual hands emerge from beneath the dragon and grab him. While he is being held, a ball of dark energy falls toward him. The dragon then breaks free from some of the hands that were holding him. Next, he uses his full moon slash ability, slicing through all the hands that were restraining him. He then notices something around him. Balkan is floating above him with a gigantic shadow claw. The dragon is extremely surprised to see that. Then the ghost uses his giant Soul Link ability and slams him against the ceiling of the house. We see the giant black hand from Balkan's giant Soul Link ability. The ghost says that was very dangerous because he ended up using all the mana and temporary souls that she gave him. He thinks, while panting heavily, that the man won't be able to move for a while after that, and that maybe this is his chance. Then he considers running far away and fleeing. Balkan teleports away from there. Suddenly, we see the giant hand being cut. The dragon, screaming, slashes and destroys the hand made of temporary souls by the ghost, freeing himself from the attack. The dragon then says to himself that the ghost's name was Balkan. He laughs and says that the next time they meet, he'll chop him to pieces. Hendrik raises his sword to the skies and shouts that he has his promise. Elsewhere, our hero says to the examiner that he sees there are many other rooms, and the man says yes, there are many ways to use magic. The examiner wonders who that guy is, a 10th floor challenger that maybe even he, a player from the 35th floor, couldn't defeat. Our boy tries to remember the man's name while thinking that he seems to be a good mage and that he can use him as a guide. Smiling, Ken opens the door and says that this is the necromancy room. They enter and several scrolls and books are flying around the room. Our boy looks around and sees corpses, potions, and books, and that place seems like a dream come true for a necromancer. Ken, still smiling, closes the door, saying to call him if the boy needs anything. While the little two-tailed fox walks around sniffing the room, our boy says it's good to get started right away. The little fox runs into a soul rising from the ground in front of her. Balkan then appears in the room looking exhausted. Our boy asks what he's been doing until this hour, while Balkan says not to mind him, that he had an intense morning workout. He notices that the boy is about to begin, and our hero says he wants to use soul power the way Balkan does. Cho then tells his soul knights to come out and get to work. They begin to carry books from one place to another, and others start drawing runes on the floor. Another lights black fire candles. In the end, our hero sits in the center of a magic circle with candles around him and books everywhere, with his souls flying above him. The little two-tailed fox looks at our hero with a doubtful expression. Balkan then picks up the little fox, smiling, and says for them to stay a bit away from him for now. Our hero says that this may end up being his last command, so he asks him to listen carefully. Then he says to protect his body until he wakes up. The ghost tells him to be careful and threatens that he'll take over his body if he dies. He then activates something and the souls start flying around him while the black candle flames are nearly blown out by the wind caused by the power. A huge soul appears above him and screams with its chilling voice. Our boy keeps concentrating as this soul gets closer to him. It then enters our hero's chest, making him grit his teeth. The little two-tailed fox screams in despair upon seeing the soul entering Chaz's chest. Balkan looks at her and says not to worry, that he'll be fine. Soul power is an essential virtue for all magic under the necromancy category, allowing souls to be infused and used as mana. Our ghost thinks that the fastest way to acquire soul power within oneself is by entering a state called soul state, which means he has to die once. Our boy then lowers his head as if he were peacefully asleep. The ghost then descends with the two-tailed fox and says it looks like the boy managed to enter the soul world. We see our hero sinking into a sea. Balkan then hears a voice behind him saying to give him his body, and our ghost says it has begun. A portal then opens and some souls begin to come out of it, saying there's fresh meat and they can live again, heading toward Chaz's body. The souls say they want that body, that it's not his, and one of them looks at Balkan and tells him to hurry off to heaven and leave that body to them. He shouts and tells the soul knights to protect their master's body from the dead. Several infernal soul knights appear and begin to grab the wandering souls as they scream for help and order the kobold souls to let them go. Balkan uses his soul laser to expel some other wandering souls that were flying nearby, and meanwhile Ken appears at the door asking what's going on. The boy puts his hand on his head upon seeing the chaos in the room and yells, asking what the hell is happening there. Balkan looks back and asks if he's the manager of that place and tells him to help too. The little two-tailed fox is hiding in a corner. trembling in fear. She opens one of her small eyes and sees one of the wandering souls walking freely and laughing near her. The soul then says that the idiots left the boys back unprotected. Ken points at our hero and says that near him a wandering soul is trying to enter. Balkan yells for the kid to wake up because there are souls that are trying to steal his body. Little Fox then jumps onto Cha's back and uses her power to protect him with her aura. She then closes her eyes and begins to shine intensely. The two-tailed fox starts emitting a bright light around her. Ken and Balkan are surprised, questioning what that light is. The wandering souls wonder where that fox came from and what that light is. All the wandering souls agree that she's so cute with her adorable two tails. Falling to the ground, all the souls talk about how cute and beautiful the little fox is. Balkan, looking at his summons, realizes that even they have been caught by the little fox enchantment. Looking back, he sees Ken completely hypnotized by the little fox's charm as well. The ghost wonders if that's seduction and thinks it's doing much more than just controlling their desires. He says it's so strong that it affects souls and thinks that creatures mixed with divine blood truly are different. We see a giant green skull with glowing eyes saying it's too noisy there. Then we see a bit more of it as it says this place is in chaos. Balkan, seeing the monster, says it's a named monster and must have been a strong adventurer before death. He then thinks it'll be dangerous if a guy like that manages to take over Cha's body, while the skull eyes the body and says it's fresh meat. Balkan then says he has to stop him and collapses to the ground. He then thinks he's still under the effect of seduction and he has no strength in his body. He shouts to the two-tailed fox to stop that spirit. The giant spirit says to get out of the way because he's not interested in her and calls her a little furball. She then, with energy radiating from her body, starts running toward him and leaps. The fox then screams and emits a bright glow again while the monster says that's a mystical creature. Two Tails then freezes mid-air with a pink heart coming out of her mouth and her eyes wide open. Balkan is in despair, thinking there's no way the little fox has already used up all her powers. The spirit then pulls out a huge sword and says he can't believe that little furball was trying to scare him. The little one then closes her eyes and braces for impact. We then see someone pointing their hand like a gun with a ball of dark energy at the tip of their index finger. We then see a black ray completely destroy the giant spirit's arm. Balkan is shocked to see that. Our hero thanks Two Tails. Then he points at the giant skeleton and says it's dead meat. The skeleton, desperate, looks at its severed hand. Our boy says that even though they are evil spirits, they should still be useful as ammunition. Our hero begins to absorb all the wandering souls, and the tips of his fingers are all glowing as if they were ammunition. Then he says the name of his ability, 10-finger ammunition. We then see several black rays, one for each of our hero's fingers, piercing the enormous spirit in multiple places, completely destroying it. We see outside of the tower explode with Cha's rays bursting through the walls. Balkan wonders if he fired soul energy after absorbing it through the tips of his fingers and adds that it's simple, yet powerful. Chet is standing near the hole that opened in the tower with the two-tailed fox behind him. The boy takes off his devil mask and asks Balkan what he thought. Ken is still smiling, but sleeping after being seduced by the little fox. Puppet arrives at the scene and is left speechless. At the door, he asks what the hell happened to the occupation transition tower. Our boy says it's a long story and asks what he came there for, and Puppet says he came to deliver something. One of his puppets was carrying a suitcase while he said those were the items they couldn't fit into the subspace of his overcoat. Opening the suitcase, he shows that it contains poisons of different strengths, a firestone, and an ice stone. Balkan then says they found those items faster than expected, and our boy began to say that Puppet had said something. Then our boy completes that Puppet said that Puppet was the one he used in battles from the 100th floor and up. Puppet, smiling, agrees with Cha. He then says that this delivery is the last he'll make as manager of the 10th floor branch, that he'll go back to adventuring and continue his climb. Our boy then asks why he's doing that, and Puppet simply says that he feels he needs to get stronger. He aims to become one of the greatest merchants in the tower and feels that his and the Golden Lich's presence will drastically change how the tower functions from now on. And with that change they'll bring, the skills of a 100th floor adventurer will no longer be enough to be an elite merchant. Our boy smiles and praises Puppet's determination while thinking that he reminds him of someone. Puppet reminds him of the Golden Lich at the start of his career. Chess says that when he's obtained the necessary skills, he should share his plans with the Golden Lich and with him. While bowing, Puppet says that's exactly what he wanted to hear and thanks him. Balkan and our hero watch from the hole in the necromancy room as Puppet leaves in his carriage. The ghost says he's gone, and our boy then turns back into the room. Next, he sits in front of the items the man brought, asking if it's time to feed his empty stomach. Balkan asks if he plans to eat all those items. Then, picking up the ice stone, he replies that yes, what else would he do with those items? He explains that his predation ability allows him to absorb the power of any item and make it his. Then he asks if he's not curious to see what new powers he'll gain after eating those items. Ken starts waking up from his sleep after being affected by the little two-tailed fox's seduction enchantment. He wakes up screaming and warning the challenger that he was in danger. Balkan then, looking at the man, says he's finally awake. The boy asks about the challenger and the little fox, and our ghost says they're safe and that he shouldn't worry. Then Balkan says that actually he's not too sure. Confused, Ken starts asking what the hell he's talking about. Then they hear a scream coming from somewhere at the end of the hallway. We then see our hero eating the fire stone and screaming in pain. While Chad is swallowing the fire stone, the two-tailed fox trembles on the floor as the nine-tailed fox says she's worried about her cub. The nine-tailed then asks him to stop showing such scary things to the little cub. After swallowing the stone, he screams and uses his predation ability. With his mouth burned, he pants heavily. A system window shows that he gained burn resistance. Then, picking up a small bottle of poison, he says what's left now is to gain poison resistance. Our hero says his stomach hurts and Balkan questions him, asking why he does all that, to which our boy says it's necessary. He needs to build tolerance against all the combat styles of the Ninja Star members. He continues saying that he especially needs poison resistance because they have a specialist there, and that if he had known that in the past, he wouldn't have died so horribly. One of the Infernal Soul Knights comes down to Balkan after finishing stacking all the orc corpses. He then asks if those were all the orcs nearby, and the Infernal Soul Knight nods yes. Our boy apologizes to the little two-tailed fox and says she can eat now as she jumps from his shoulder. Balkan asks if he doesn't have to crush the livers for her, and our hero agrees, saying she's still just a baby. The little fox reveals terrifying fangs and starts eating the orc livers without them having to do anything, but both are startled by her ferocity. We see the system window inform that she ate 127 livers out of the 999 needed to complete the mission. Shell looks at the little one and says he'd like to start a monster wave as much as she does, but the city is too big and would attract too much attention. Then our boy looks at Balkan and asks who he fought the previous day, and the ghost is surprised that he knew about that. The boy asks if he thinks he wouldn't notice the ghost mana being used and asks if it was someone from the Four Emperors. Balkan then says he's right, and our boy is surprised. He then says he fought a dragon and that the opponent was quite strong. He continues saying he barely managed to keep the man from moving using soul energy. Concentrating energy around himself, our boy starts to wonder if someone from the Four Emperors had been there. Balkan tells him to calm down and not unleash his demonic power in the streets. Suddenly, he coughs up blood. Then he wonders if that might be a side effect of his predation ability, and Balkan says he warned him to take it slowly. Then he continues telling that it wasn't an ordinary dragon, and our boy asks what he meant by that. After some time, the ghost tells him the full story of his encounter with the dragon Hendrik and his fight against the man. Our boy then says that the man is a dragon slayer named Hendrik. Balkan says that's how he introduced himself, and our boy, eyes wide, says that's impossible. Then he wonders how the hell the man managed to separate soul from body. He himself thought it wasn't possible at first, but he's living proof that it is. Then he tells the ghost that he's heard the name Hendrik the Dragon Slayer before. Our boy says he's a very powerful adventurer who started by killing young dragons and earned the title Dragon Slayer by defeating all those who came after him. But he heard the adventurer died around the 800th floor, and Balkan says that based on his situation, the man may have fallen into a trap set by the emperors. Smiling, our hero says then he has to go and meet that Hendrik guy. Again, our boy starts having a nasty coughing fit, and Balkan says he's pushing his body too far. He says the predation ability is great, but everything he absorbs he has to digest, and the damage caused by the things he swallowed takes a while to heal. The boy asks if he wants him to get healed by a priest and end up having Balkan and his army banned by holy power. The ghost then asks what he plans to do or if he's just going to keep walking around coughing up blood. The boy then says the best solution would be to get holy powers himself, and the ghost says the kid is getting crazier by the day. The little two-tailed fox on his shoulder suddenly starts growling while our hero asks what's wrong. She starts whining, howling, and screeching out of nowhere while our hero starts shouting, asking what's going on and why she suddenly started doing that. Our boy tells her to stop because his ears hurt while Balkan looks to the side and notices something. Then he calls our hero and tells him to look around because those people seem very strange. He then wonders what's wrong with those humans who aren't even reacting to the howls and screeches from Two Tails. He goes on saying that he can't explain why, but it looks like all those people are walking together unconsciously. Then they feel the ground tremble and something appears behind them. Both our hero and Balkan turn around to try to understand what's happening. They see a woman with a halo above her head walking nearby, saying it's a pleasure to meet him. The blonde woman with golden eyes calls him by the nickname Devil Mask. He then, upon seeing her, realizes she's a celestial and immediately opens his coat and begins to pull a sword from inside while laughing and asking if she's really happy to see him. Our boy starts to say he's not that happy to see her, but the celestial is quicker. She appears right in front of him and grabs the sword's hilt before he finishes drawing it, telling him not to do something he might regret later. The boy then thinks she's very fast and starts to wonder when she even got to him. The girl looks at him and says once again that it's a pleasure to meet him, Devil Mask. Our boy thinks the celestial is really strong. He can't even move. She then touches our hero's face and says the inside of his mouth is severely injured. Still analyzing our hero's body, she says his throat and internal organs are seriously damaged, and our boy asks her what she's doing. The celestial's halo starts glowing with a golden light. She then, with a serene face, touches our boy's body while still emitting that golden glow. He recognizes the magic the girl is using and opens his eyes wide. Then he takes a step back and Balkan asks if he's okay. The little fox is already preparing for combat. Then he realizes that all of his internal injuries are healed. Our hero thinks those are definitely the holy powers of a celestial, while she asks if that's enough to prove she didn't come as an enemy. She introduces herself as Uriel and says she is part of a group of celestials titled the Wingless. Suddenly, we hear the city clock chiming. People in the street wake up and seem lost, wondering what time it is and where they were going. At a hotel owned by the Golden Lich, a maid is startled. She then talks to her friend who says she also had her mind drift off. Then her friend asks if they've been working too much lately. Closing the door to the room, our hero asks what tricks she used on the people. She says she slightly tampered with their memories and it was for their protection, since it would be bad if the Celestials knew she was on the 10th floor. Our boy then thinks the methods she used were bold but not dangerous and thinks she did well. Then he says that memory manipulation is very interesting and asks why she didn't use it on him, or if she did. Maybe it hasn't worked yet. She smiles and says it doesn't work on people with a strong sense of self and wouldn't work on him, just like it won't work on the little two-tails, who is angry. The woman goes on to say that it also won't work on his ghost friend who's been watching her for a while. Balkan then says it was just as he thought. She could see him, and our boy asks why she came to meet him. Then she says, the one who wears a strange mask will attempt a revolution against the heavens. She continues, despite his power and allies currently being weak, his journey will eventually end in success. Then she finally says that she sought him out because of a prophecy that was passed to them. Our hero then asks if that prophecy was passed by God, and the woman says more or less. Cha thinks that the man she says wears a strange mask must be him. Then our hero asks who this organization called the Wingless is, since he's never heard of them. Then the girl lets her robe slip. She then stands up, letting the robe fall completely to the ground. Our boy is completely shocked, staring at the woman as she turns her back. Then he notices the place where the woman's wings should be. The girl, slightly embarrassed, says that the Celestial Society is completely insane. Blinded by greed, they began to act in strange ways. They went so far as to ban those who went against what they preach, removing their wings and treating them as criminals. She explains that when a Celestial commits a crime and is banished, they are punished by having their wings removed. In other words, the person is stripped of their wings and their identity as a Celestial. The woman says the Wingless are a group of Celestials like her. Each of them was banished from the celestial city of Utopia. And if a prophecy is true, he will try to challenge the heavens by subjugating the control of the 4 emperors. Our hero then says that her organization intends to support this revolution. He then closes his eyes and thinks for a few seconds. During that time, he communicates telepathically with Balkan, asking what he should do, and Balkan says she doesn't seem to be lying and that he should just give her some rope. Our boy then asks the Celestial what her group will do to support him. The woman with her eyes closed says they will do nothing. Surprised, Cha asks her if he understood that correctly. She says the power the Wingless currently carry is quite strong, and because of that, the Celestials keep a very close eye on them. Then she says their reinforcements would be met with hostility from Celestial Society. Our boy then thinks it's a shame and a waste to not use that Celestial army, but accepting their help is too risky. He asks if, despite the risks when he needs her strength, will she help him? She keeps her gaze firm and unwavering as she replies that she would help him without hesitation. Our boy then says that's fine and that they formed an alliance. The woman then bows to him and thanks him. Cha thinks that his name still hasn't been revealed, since the woman has only called him Devil Mask so far. He then asks if she can cover the eyes of gods and demons, and she says yes, if only for a moment. Then the woman pulls one of the remaining feathers from what's left of her wings on her back. She then blows something onto the feather in her hand. Suddenly, they are surrounded by golden energy, and feathers float around them. Our boy thinks she's using a skill similar to the one the Golden Lich used. He then asks if they really can't hear them, and she says they shouldn't be able to hear even if he curses and insults them. Then our boy starts removing the mask. Next, he shouts, cursing Baal for being a damn stalker, and asks if he's listening. The Celestial is left speechless as she watches him speak. Then he fully removes his mask and says he really thinks they're safe now, while the woman asks why he wanted that private space. He then says that now that they're in the same boat, it would be strange to talk through a mask and fake names. Then he says his real name is Chijingyuk, and that 10 years ago, people used to call him the Star of Death. The woman then opens her eyes wide as she repeats our boy's name. She then falls to her knees, surprising our hero. Then she apologizes and says it was all her fault. He then asks if she knows him. Then he continues saying that she really knows him, the version of him that died 10 years ago. The woman then says that 10 years ago, she was in the palace, and she goes on to say that that's where they discussed his death. Our boy then begins to let his energy flow through his body as he takes a step toward the woman. He then says that the girl had better choose her next words very carefully. Then she asks if he knows what will happen if he reaches the 999th floor. He replies that he'll become one of those pursuers, an ascendant who manages the tower like any of those gods and demons in that tower. The 4 emperors became obsessed with their position of superiority and seek to monopolize that role. Eventually, they plan to eliminate every single person, besides themselves, who had the potential to conquer the tower. Our hero says they're eliminating the competition at the root. The woman then asks if he already knew that. He says it was just something he suspected and now it's confirmed. Then he goes on to say that one of the minds behind that absurd plan is standing right in front of him at that very moment. Then he shouts that he'll cut off her head too. Next, his energy begins to surround the woman and strangle her. The girl says that being there that day was the reason she became a wingless, and upon hearing that, the energy stops squeezing her throat. He then stops and asks her what she meant by that. The woman then says she became wingless 10 years ago because she opposed the assassination of a certain adventurer. And the name of that adventurer was Star of Death or Chejin Hyuk. He then says it was her. Our boy then dissipates his power, and the woman collapses to the ground in front of him. Our hero apologizes for being rude, and she says it's okay, that it's the cross she has to bear. He then says it's fine, that he doesn't want to take his anger out on her, and says he understands that the wingless and the celestials are different from each other. The woman thanks him for understanding the difference. She says there may be more people like her in other tribes, and that he should accept help from those people too. Our boy, smiling, says that any kind of person could really exist in that world. Then our hero thinks that there must be many people banished from their tribes out there, and gathering them might be a great help in his war against the 4 emperors. He asks the woman where to go if he wants to find her again, and she says their hideout is on the 190th floor. Our boy says he expected it to be on a higher floor, but she says the higher you go, the more influence the 4 emperors have. She also says that the 200th and 300th floors are his territory, and our boy thinks to himself that he really had forgotten about his territory. Then he remembers the martial Emperor Tessio. He's an influential figure who dominates everything from the 200th to 300th floors. If they had made their hideout there, it's more likely he would have destroyed it than any of the others. The woman then asks if he'll allow her to change her clothes for a moment, and our boy, caught off guard by the unexpected question, answers yes. She then turns her back and bends down to pick up her robe. Our boy then notices her back again and what's left of her angelic wings. He then asks the woman if leaving something with him would leave a trace. The woman then replies no, but the celestials are after them, and the only thing she brought was her body. Then with a smile on his face, our boy says her body is more than enough. The woman then gets flustered and starts asking what kind of person he is. Our boy then shouts that it's not like that and that he meant her wings, not her body itself. The woman then relaxes and says if that's it, it's fine. He can take as many as he wants because they grow back. While she plucks one of her feathers, he thinks he was being cautious exactly because he didn't know whether they grew back or not. The woman then places several of her feathers into our hero's hand. The boy says she can't give them to anyone else and asks if celestials have the ability to track the owner of a specific feather. He then says he was planning to eat them all himself, and the girl, confused, asks if he really intends to eat them. The girl says again that he really is that type of person, while he defends himself, saying he's not. She then says she'll leave the rest to him and that they'll meet again in the City of Dreams. Our hero then says he'll make sure not to disappoint her. The woman then, putting on her robe, says she's looking forward to seeing his progress. She then opens the door and starts walking away. After that, she teleports, leaving a few feathers floating in the air. The little two-tailed fox starts making some noises, getting Cha's attention. Balka then asks the boy if he's going to eat the feathers now, and he says yes, that he's too excited to wait any longer. Looking at the feather in his hand, he wonders if he'll be able to endure divine power, and what kind of abilities he'll gain by absorbing the feathers. Balkan then says to do whatever he wants, because he gave up trying to stop him back when he drank the 3rd bottle of poison. The ghost then approaches the little fox and says she shouldn't eat everything she sees in front of her like that kid does. Our boy then swallows one of Uriel's feathers. A few seconds later, something happens inside him. He begins to glow from the inside out, trying to absorb the divine power leaking from his body. Balkan, feigning disinterest, says whatever, that he won't get involved. While our hero tries to endure the divine power suffering, Balkan tells the little fox that they should go play flying. Our hero howls in pain as he still tries to hold himself together. In the moments that follow, his head begins to spin and his vision becomes completely blurred. He sees himself lying in a hall filled with water. Our boy is standing still with his face half submerged as the water splashes against him. He then gets up and wonders if he passed out or something like that, and he seems to recognize the place he's in. After a while, he confirms that he's in an imaginary world. He then thinks that this must mean the divine power was too much for his body to handle, and that, if that's the case, they'll have to end the battle here. Our hero places his hand on the ground and a golden energy appears around him. He then looks back and sees a giant golden waterfall. The boy sees that this is the divine power within him, which looks like a mountain, and he thinks that if just one feather has all this power, imagine them all. He keeps staring at all that power and thinks he was lucky not to have fought Uriel, even if he had won. Then he imagines how painful it would be to absorb all her power if just one feather is doing this to him. Suddenly, he notices that the water level is rising, that it wasn't just an image. He sees that he has to win before that mountain of divine power swallows his entire imaginary world and wonders what he should do. Next, he smiles and clenches his teeth. Then, with his energy around him, he says there's only one way. Balkan notices that our boy has stopped screaming. Turning around, he sees the boy's body on the ground with energy surrounding him. Then the ghost realizes that the boy used soul power, but something is different. He then sees what the difference is. He's using his very soul as material. The little two-tailed fox looks worried. Balkan then says to believe in him and that the fact he started moving must mean he has a plan. The little fox understands but clearly remains concerned. Balkan thinks he's not the only one who wants to see the boy's full potential. Smiling, he wonders how the boy will surprise him this time. Then, using a straw of shadows, he tries to swallow the divine water, and after some time wonders if maybe that's not the answer either. He must create an image with his soul power and create something that can suppress the divine power. Then he thinks that since he absorbed that divine power with his purgation ability, maybe if he created something that could eat that divine power, it might work. If this keeps up, he will fail, and if he gets overwhelmed by the divine power, he'll either have to release it or lose his mind forever. He then stops and asks himself what the hell he's thinking and saying. He then thinks that this place is made from an image created by his soul, that he can do whatever and however he wants there. Shadow teeth begin to emerge from the ground amid the flood. Then we see a giant shadow shark form behind him. Smiling, our boy says now they will really fight. He then launches the shark toward the mountain of divine power. The shark begins to swallow large amounts of divine water. Our boy smiles and says that this is what he was talking about. The gigantic shark starts getting closer to the mountain of divine power. He says it's delicious as the shark with its huge mouth continues to devour absurd amounts of divine power. Our boy smiles and says it's delicious. As the shark keeps devouring, he continues to revel in the divine power, mentally screaming that he wants more and more. The boy's body in the real world starts smiling. Ball's window says he is smiling beside the little two-tailed fox who still looks worried. Ball says he's clapping like a baby seal, saying this is what he was waiting for, the birth of the demon lord of purgation. Then we return to another life with Cha talking to the golden lich, saying that just like our hero had Ball, he had a neutral god hitting on him. As his name implies, greedy dragon, he seeks to devour all kinds of ill omens he encounters. In short, he is a dragon who went mad and wants to devour everything and everyone in the world. The name of his god is the greedy dragon, but his real name is Greed. Our boy wakes up with Balkan smiling and saying he finally woke up, and the little two-tailed fox smiling happily. Then he asks if he's really back, and the ghost says yes and asks if he succeeded, because if he didn't, he'll start mocking him right now. Our boy then replies, how embarrassing. Next, with a circle of divine power in his hands, he says that of course he won. He says it's not very big, but he created a divine power generator inside himself and asks what he thinks and if he's satisfied. Balkan wonders how he managed to absorb the power of one of the tribes if he's not even from a tribe, and how he managed to absorb the powers of a celestial. The ghost smiles and says that if the celestials find out, they won't hesitate to issue a kill order on the boy. Our boy says he messed with their pride and won't be surprised if they send the entire tribe to hunt him down. Balkan says it's truly quite the achievement, but it makes everything much more dangerous, since he's still not strong enough to withstand a direct attack. He continues thinking as we see the dragon that fought Balkan, thinking about the situation where he might have to face one of the 4 emperors, especially in the state he's in, still incomplete. A few days later, in the hunting fields of the 10th floor, we see Hell's Soul orc knights fighting against normal orcs. One of the orcs with an axe in hand stares at someone in front of him after seeing one of his own defeated. Some Hell Soul knights fly toward that orc. He quickly swings his axe toward the head of one of the souls, and ends up disintegrating it with his powerful strike. As the scene unfolds down on the ground, Balkan watches from the top of the hill. Our hero arrives behind him, with a huge pile of orcs behind him, and says that now it's really started. The orc slices down another one of the shadows sent to kill him. The next one in front of him is cut in 2 by the powerful orc's axe. He then roars in rage as he kills the last shadow that came after him. Suddenly, the Hell Soul Knight that was in front of him, cut in 2, begins to emit a golden glow from the wound. The orc notices that something is strange about that Hell Soul Knight he defeated. Suddenly, we see a black hand with a celestial energy circle in its palm. Then we see a Hell Soul Knight in a robe using divine power through his hands. Our boy arrives behind Balkan and asks how their new soldier, the Divine Soul Knight, is doing on the battlefield. They both look down and the ghost says he's doing very well, just as expected. He says that now, with a healer dedicated to the spirits, healing and reviving the lesser knights, it completely changed how necromancers fight. Balkan says that since they're using divine energy, many of the test objects are entering nirvana and becoming useless, and our boy says they have to be careful. Then the pile of orc bodies behind him begins to move dangerously. Then we see the cute little two-tailed fox emerging from the pile of bodies with her mouth all bloody. Balkan says he thinks she's finished eating, and our hero, with a smile on his face, asks her if she's done eating and if it was good. He says, looking at the mission menu, that they'll probably be done by tomorrow, and that he never imagined earning the title of Orc Slayer twice. Our boy then checks his status window. He thinks that his divine power increased by 2 after a few days generating divine energy, and says that 3 little points won't make a difference now, but might help in the future. The ghost then approaches him and asks what they'll do now. Then he says they have to meet that guy Hendrik. Our boy asks the ghost if he's sure the dragon will be there, and he says yes, because it's been there all along, and it's almost as if it's been waiting for someone. Cha thinks that Hendrik is a dragon slayer in a dragon's body, and that he can't wait to meet him. He thinks there must be some reason he stopped on the 10th floor and that, just like Uriel, he's waiting for something after hearing from the gods or demons. Balkan says they're at the location and that he'll see the dragon the moment he steps out of the alley they're in. Our hero steps out of the alley wearing his well-known demonic mask. And as promised, he sees the dragon standing in the middle of the street in front of him. Then he sees with his own eyes and thinks that the man really did become a dragon. Sure then asks if they should go over there, and Balkan says he just has to go and talk to him, unless he has some other plan. The ghost continues saying that it might be that he's not the man he's waiting for and could end up provoking him unintentionally. He says that if it ends up going that way, then they'll just have to fight. Balkan, with clenched teeth, says that he's a lunatic. That the ghost says to do whatever he wants but not to involve him, and our hero says he knew he was afraid of Hendrik ever since the last beating he took. Our ghost defends himself saying that he, the first soul master, didn't take a beating, and our hero says he's clearly lying that he did take a beating and ran away. The dragon, meanwhile, is still standing in the same place and then closes his eyes. He then remembers, flashing back to the past, his face full of scars and bleeding. A voice then tells him that on the 10th floor, a man will fulfill his wish and that he should wait. Our hero then appears in front of the dragon and asks if his name is Hendrik, with Balkan behind him and the two-tailed fox on the ground. Then he says yes, that's him, and that he was waiting for the boy to speak to him first. He also notices Balkan, saying that there's a familiar face with him, while our ghost stands frozen in shock. Right after, the dragon says he thinks he is qualified. Our boy says he doesn't like being criticized so openly, and that he'll let this one slide. The dragon says there are too many people around and asks the boy to follow him. The group then starts walking, following the dragon. Then he says that this is the place, and our hero seems to notice something. He sees it's a dead-end alley, and asks why he had to come there when there were several alleys like that near the square where they were. The dragon then places his hand on the wall, which begins to glow and crackle. Next, he opens some kind of portal and begins to enter. Our boy tells them to just follow him for now. Then, with his eyes fixed ahead, she starts to pass through the portal created by the dragon. They emerge in a place that looks like the city, but it's empty, and he asks where they are while the dragon says it's a hidden subspace on the 10th floor. He says that not even the eyes of the gods and demons can see them there, and our boy thinks that there really are far fewer eyes on him now. The dragon then says that he can finally ask him something. He says he's going to kill all the dragons that killed him in that tower and asks if the boy is ready to join him in that fight. Our boy, under the mask, begins to smile. Cher then asks if his dream isn't a bit small for a big guy like him. The dragon then asks what he means by small. Balkan then starts calling the boy by name, shocked. He says that guy is a monster and asks why he would provoke someone like him. Telepathically, our hero tells Balkan to calm down, that he has a plan in mind. Then he says to the dragon that he doesn't know much about the circumstances, but has an idea of how he ended up there. He continues by asking if he already knows and says that the 4 emperors aren't the only ones who killed them. He then says he doesn't know why he's so obsessed with dragons, but his goals are too small for our hero. Che is going to get rid of every bastard who ruined his life, and that goes for anyone, not just the 4 emperors. He points at the dragon and says he'll say it again. His plans are too small for them to work together. The dragon then tells him not to say he's going to attack all 4 emperors. Our hero says it's just like him. Those bastards were behind his fall, and asks if he needs any more answers. The dragon then starts laughing and trembling while Balkan watches with a confused expression. Suddenly, he starts laughing even louder, causing a commotion. Our hero then smiling asks Balkan if he saw that, while the ghost stands open-mouthed at the dragon's reaction. Hendrik then asks if that's really it and says that the boy is right and then apologizes. He then says that the man in the prophecy Uriel mentioned was indeed him. Our boy is then surprised that Uriel has already made contact with him. The dragon then, using his thumb to start unsheathing his sword, says he likes the boy. And then he says that he's going to test for himself whether all that determination is real or just a lie. He then asks what the name is of the boy who desires revolution. Our boy removes his demonic mask and introduces himself as Chijingyuk, the Star of Death. Then someone behind them yells, cursing Hendrik, calling him a damned lizard. He asks if he's there to cause trouble again and if he hasn't already gotten what he wanted. Hendrik then says that he arrived, and our hero asks if he knows that man. But before finishing the sentence, he widens his eyes in recognition of the person behind him. The dragon says that he is a blacksmith who lived there before he discovered that place, and that this is the man who forged his sword. The hobgoblin says that's right, and that since he already got his sword, he should leave, and asks why the hell he came back. Still in shock, our boy thinks that it can't be. Both our hero and Balkan are in shock that the man is a hobgoblin. The hobgoblin then says that it's quite the combination, a soul, a mystical creature, and asks who the guy in black is. Our hero then asks how he's still alive. The man says he sees that the kid has no respect for elders and replies yes, he's alive, and asks what the problem with that is. Our boy then says that's not what he meant. He then continues by saying what he meant was how he survived that tragedy. The hobgoblin then raises his hammer and starts to say something. He charges in for an attack, saying that if he knows about that, it must mean he was the one who burned his entire village. The dragon then grabs the hobgoblin's arm, stopping him. The blacksmith yells for him to let go because it was that boy who set his village on fire. Then he asks the hobgoblin to stop and explains that the boy is in the same situation as him. Then Balkan asks if the old man by any chance knows a hobgoblin named Haryu. The old man, startled, asks how he knows Haryu. Sometime later, with the situation clearly clarified, the old man asks if she's really alive. The dragon, watching all this unfold, thinks it's too much of a coincidence. The old man explains that on that day, everyone had gathered on the 100th floor for the traditional festival. He says he didn't go, that he chose to stay there because his body was growing weak with age. He continues saying that the tragedy then happened and he ended up surviving. The old man asks where the girl is and if she's safe. Our boy says that she's on the 9th floor now and will meet them soon. He then says that the mask the boy is wearing belongs to her. Our hero says yes, that she gave him the mask as payment for saving her life. The dragon then asks if the other hobgoblin is strong and our boy says she is, but she still needs some training, although she could probably defeat the two of them. He then also asks if she's a temporary companion or if she'll stay with them until the end. Our hero says she's a companion to the end because he promised to join her in her revenge when he accepted her mask. The blacksmith then grabs our hero's hand and thanks him. He then introduces himself as Geno and says he was the blacksmith of the hobgoblin village and will use all his skills to support him. The old man then asks him to rebuild the village with Haryu, and our boy says yes, of course. Balkan then thinks to himself that the kid doesn't know receiving a hobgoblin mask is a marriage proposal. He then says that our boy can take any item he wants from his workshop. Our boy says those weapons are on a level above the ones the Golden Lich got for him, and the dragon says the old man is a great blacksmith. Sometime later, the dragon tells him it's time to leave, and our boy informs the blacksmith that they're heading out. Then both see the blacksmith leaning against the wall, clearly asleep. Our hero asks if he's really asleep, and the dragon says he must have finally felt relieved by the news they brought and that he was happy to know about Haryu. Cha then says to let the blacksmith rest and that they need to bring Haryu there as soon as she reaches the 10th floor. Our boy thinks he hopes the girl can gain some strength after seeing Geno, and then it's an enormous relief to know there's another survivor. Someone calls his name and tells him to stay alert as something comes flying toward his face. He then dodges the attack that passed right by his face. The attack explodes behind him, causing massive destruction. Then he sees who attacked him as the wall behind him collapses. The dragon, with magical runes in a circle in his hand, says that he reacted quite fast. He continues saying that he had warned him earlier that he was going to test him. Then he finishes by saying that if he's weak enough to die there by his hand, and there's no way a revolution could happen. Our hero tells him not to get cocky, especially since he was also being tested right then. Next, we see scenes of destruction happening all across the city as the dragon and our hero test each other's abilities. Our hero and the dragon face each other head-on. Hendrik then places his sword in front of his face and focuses on the opponent before him. He then slashes and swings his sword, slicing Cha's Hell Soul Knights to pieces as he charges toward our boy. Then the dragon notices swords flying behind him. The dragon begins to deflect the sword attacks coming from behind while shouting that the boy is using dirty tricks. Hendrik grits his teeth as he looks up and sees our hero charging at him with a staff in one hand and a sword in the other, not giving him room to breathe. Our hero then comes down, attacking the dragon with his sword. With an extremely fast movement, the dragon dodges by taking a light step back. Then our hero wonders how he dodged his sword, which he had mastered using the jack-of-all-trades skill. Hendrik then grabs Cha's sword hand. He then throws our hero against the wall. With the impact and sound of the blow, a little two-tailed fox wakes up from her sleep along with Geno, who continues sleeping. The dragon then praises the boy's movements, saying that for a mage or a necromancer, he's an excellent swordsman. He then points out that the problem with the boy's necromancy is that he can only summon monsters up to the 10th floor, which are weak. Then Balkan behind him asks if he's sure about what he just said as black chains begin to form around him. Balkan asks if the first Soul Master counts too, while binding the dragon, and he clenches his teeth, clearly nervous. A black spear then appears with lightning surrounding it. Our boy, amidst the rubble, appears with Gungnir above him, ready to be launched. The dragon looks tense as he stares at the massive black spear. Our hero then says that this is his greatest trick of all, the one that ripped off the great orc warrior's head in less than a second. Then saying that, our hero smiles and says goodbye. Gungnir is then thrown at the dragon. Hendrik appears to brace for the impact of the great spear. He then channels his power into his sword. The sword seems alive with its red scales. Balkan then notices the pattern of the scales on the weapon and thinks that it can't be one of those swords. The dragon uses a spell to dispel magic, thus breaking the chains around him. The ghost starts yelling for Jinyu to run and begins to talk about the sword the dragon is using. Our hero then, with a surprised look, observes the situation. Hendrik then uses his skill Dragon Banishment. The skill cuts Gungnir in half. It then flies toward our boy's face after passing through the middle of the spear. The skill appears to have hit our hero directly as the ghost grabs his head in desperation. The hilt of the sword then hits Balkan square in the face. The dragon then asks if that is Jin Hyuk's strongest weapon. Looking back, he jumps and says that now our hero has no more summons available. As he was jumping upward, our hero appears beside him, saying that the dragon is wrong. He says Hendrik forgot about him, that he is his strongest weapon. Then he fires several shots with his crossbow at the dragon. Clearly missing the target, the dragon says that compared to how he fights with a sword, his archery and general aim are terrible. The 2 shadow arrows he fired explode behind the dragon and split into several others, flying toward his back. Hendrik realizes that the arrows the boy fired were magical as he looks over his shoulder and sees our hero holding the staff in his mouth. The magical arrows then pierce the dragon's body in several different places. Coughing up blood, the dragon feels the force of the arrows in his body. Our boy thinks that the arrows landed a critical hit on the target and that he'd better rush in and finish the dragon while he still can. He then grabs the mask and thinks that he wasn't able to use the mask properly when he was with Haryu, but now he can. He puts the mask on his face, invoking its power. Our boy begins to approach the dragon at high speed as he falls to the ground. Midway, the dragon starts gritting his teeth again. Suddenly, a whirlwind of fire surrounds the dragon as he falls. Our hero, seeing that, says he lost his chance now and that it won't be so easy anymore. Hendrik dissipates part of his fire whirlwind and starts laughing, saying the boy was stronger than he seemed and that he lost to his tactics. Then he says that that's not all and asks the boy to give him more, smiling as small red scales appear beneath his eyes. He then raises his sword and an image of a red dragon made of energy appears above him as he demands the boy hit him more. Our hero stands still, watching the dragon in all this fury, and he thinks he can't see a way to escape. He thinks that even with battle foresight, he won't be able to dodge that, and once he gets hit, it's over. Then he grabs the fox mask and thinks he's going to have to use it. The little 2-tailed fox senses that the mask has been taken out. He then thinks that he's entrusting everything to that fox mask as he puts it on. Geno finally starts to wake up as the entire place is shaking. He feels everything around him trembling and crumbling, and he wonders what the hell is happening. Geno wonders if it's that damned lizard Hendrik again. The little 2-tailed fox senses something in the air and starts hopping toward the sound. The old man sees the fox running and yells, asking where she's going, that it's dangerous to be out there right now. The fox then stops and sees a massive pillar of fire shooting into the sky. Then we see our hero replacing the demonic mask with the fox mask as he says that now's the time to trust in her. Hendrik is in the air with a red dragon made of pure energy behind him while our boy. From above, the dragon uses his skill, Dragon Flash. Then we see the dragon disappear. Our hero, sweating cold, stands wide-eyed as he sees the dragon vanish into thin air. The next second, he reappears in front of him, ready to strike, with the energy dragon's mouth wide open around Hendrik. The blade then closes in on our hero's face, and next we see the nearby building being destroyed by the impact of the energy dragon's tail. We see the dragon's blade stuck in the shattered ground. Hendrik, holding the sword, wonders if the boy dodged his skill and says that's not a skill someone could dodge at that speed. Our boy then appears on the wall behind Hendrik. He notices that the boy is wearing the fox mask and wonders if it comes from that little 2-tailed fox who walks with him. The dragon then asks if he's playing dress up and charges at our boy. Our hero pulls out clawed knuckle dusters from inside his overcoat. Then he charges at Hendrik in close combat. A rain of blows is exchanged between the two. The dragon says that his movements, strength, and speed are completely different from before, and he asks if it's because of the fox mask. Our hero continues landing more and more blows on the dragon, who seems to be starting to struggle with defending. Cho then thinks he sees an opening and lands another strike with his clawed knuckles. The dragon with a magic circle above his left hand is likely casting one of his spells. Our boy then thinks that the dragon intentionally created an opening so he could use his magic. Next, a massive explosion occurs in front of the dragon, where our hero had been. Our hero then appears a few meters behind the explosion in a defensive stance. The mask makes our boy's eye glow as he uses one of his new abilities. Then, with a pink circle around him, our boy uses the seduction ability. The ability hits the dragon, who is left stunned. The next second, he grits his teeth again and begins to growl. Then he shouts that he's not into men and breaks Chao's seduction ability. He says that if he focuses just a little, he can break that magic quickly. Our boy says he knows, and that even so, the dragon won't be able to move for a moment, and charges at him. Cha thinks he cannot use just any attack at that moment, and that he will have to end the fight at once with a single precise blow. Thinking of his friend Kyung-hoon, he asks to borrow a bit of his skill. Then he channels the power of the Almighty in martial arts, the movements of the fox, the enchantment magic that strengthens power, soul power, demonic, sacred. Our boy literally channels all the powers he possesses into that single strike. Then, with his fist full of channeled energy, he shouts that this is the end. The boy uses the skill first move of Choi Kyung-hoon, ascending fists, and lands a direct hit on the dragon's stomach. Upon striking the blow, we see energy of the attack accumulating in the center of the city. Then a massive explosion is seen. Balkan is lying on the ground near where the debris from the battle is falling. Then, trembling, he wakes up wondering if he passed out and how the battle is going. Balkan suddenly notices something in front of him. He sees the shadow of our hero coming toward him through the dust cloud. Our hero then, with a battered face and blood flowing from his eyes like tears, stops just in front of the smoke cloud. Blood then begins to flow from his mouth, dripping down his chin. Then our boy falls to his knees and Balkan shouts for him. Our hero then thinks he used up all of his strength and can't even move. He then says he should have finished everything with that last blow of his, as we see the dragon, with the sword embedded in the ground, still standing. The dragon then pulls out his sword that was stuck in the ground. He puts his hand on his stomach and says that the boy passed. Che then points at him saying he's disqualified, that he should at least fall after taking that last attack, and then calls him a monster. The dragon then says it's strange to be called disqualified by the boy, while our kid says he's an annoying bastard. Then he says it's fine, and our boy is caught off guard. With his sword in hand, he tells them to decide if he passed or not with that last move. Smiling, Hendrik says the boy is rising in his evaluation and that he'll do everything to get a pass from the boy. Che then asks him to calm down, that he can't move his body at that moment. Suddenly, a red energy dragon appears in the sky above our hero. Hendrik then uses his skill, Flower Dragon. The energy dragon then flies toward our hero with its mouth open. Smiling, our hero says it's fine, he gives up, and that Hendrik is approved. Then he curses the dragon, calling him a damned bastard as the blow hits him square in the face. Balkan tells our hero that he lost too, and says that he called him a loser before and was full of confidence and all, but still lost to the dragon too. He also adds that he was going to test the dragon slayer too, and meanwhile, our little two-tailed fox who was sleeping woke up with all the chatter. Our hero gets up, all bandaged, saying he better shut his mouth or he'll turn him into one of his soul knights. Then the pain hit his whole body and he could no longer summon his energy. He says everything hurts, while the ghost chuckles and says he deserved the beating. Balkan looks at our hero and tells him not to push himself too hard. The ghost continues saying he only got divine power from his encounter with Uriel, because if he hadn't, he would have been killed right there and then with that weak body of his. Then our hero shouts that he'll kill the old man when he gets better, and the ghost says all he's hearing is the whining of a loser, and our little fox sighs, poor thing. She then noticed someone knocking at the door. Then a voice says they're coming into the house. Hendrik enters the house and asks if he's feeling better. Our boy then says he's here, and the ghost stammers upon seeing who it is. Balkan remembers the promise the dragon made the last time they fought, that he cut him in two the next time they met and all, and swallows hard. Then he steps forward and apologizes for the last time they met. The dragon says it's fine and that since they're in the same boat now, it's better to leave the past in the past. Awkwardly, our ghost gives a nervous laugh and says that's good to hear. Then he notices that Hendrik seemed like a lunatic while fighting our boy, but in daily life he was a completely different guy. Balkan apologizes for the kid's condition while the dragon asks if he was too aggressive with him, and our boy grits his teeth in anger. Then he stands up and says for the two of them to come at him together, that he'll win the next time they fight for sure. The dragon thinks that someday he really will win. Then Che says he called Hendrik there because he wanted to hear his story. Our boy then, looking seriously at him, asks him to tell the story of his past. The man then tells that his family and hometown vanished because of the dragon tribe. We see giant dragons flying above the village, setting everything and everyone on fire. Hendrik miraculously escaped the massacre. All he saw were dragons flying over the city, burning people and buildings, destroying everything. Absolutely the only thing he could feel at that moment was hatred for the dragon tribe. After that, all he did was climb the tower like any other player, and luckily he was talented enough to make it that far. Our boy points out that Hendrik's story is very similar to someone else's he knows. Then he continues saying he started killing dragons for revenge on the 600th floor, and our hero says he was pretty fast. He began to attack the 4 emperors, but they quickly started retaliating against him, and our boy says he doesn't even want to imagine what that must have been like. Hendrik said that fighting them became his daily routine, and that the stronger he got, the weaker the penalties they imposed on him became. After reaching their base on the 800th floor, they weren't there, and all our hero could think about were the imposed penalties. That he remembers that the system applies penalties to players who are far too strong when descending to lower floors to limit them and avoid monopolies. That's why he was able to withstand the Golden Lich's attacks, otherwise he would have been killed in a single strike. Our boy then asks the dragon what was the highest floor he reached. He then reveals he made it to the 900th floor. Then, with regret in his words, he says his journey ended on the 900th floor. Cho then thinks that this guy should have become a transcendent, one of the gods and demons of the tower. Hendrik continues saying that many large and powerful squads of the 4 emperors were formed to capture him. At some point, he couldn't defend himself anymore and ended up the way he is. He continues saying how ironic it is that among all species, he ended up being resurrected in the skin of a dragon, his greatest enemy. Our boy then says it must have been really hard for him. He then replies that yes, he wanted to die, but said it wasn't easy to die in that strong body. So that's why he decided to accept his fate. He would use that body to complete his revenge. Our boy, smiling, says that's just like him. The dragon then stands up and says he's ready to start climbing the tower, and then remembers they have to wait for the girl Haryu, and Chet is surprised and asks if she'll be going with them. Hendrik then kneels down and says he can't leave a weakling like him alone, and the boy says he's starting to get on his nerves. He says that the two of them carry many similarities and says that in his final moment he was alone. And he says he thinks our boy was also alone in his final moment. He continues then saying that they have to learn from past mistakes, and that they were stupid enough to think they'd defeat them alone. Our hero says that he's right, that they need friends and companions who will fight by their side. The dragon then says he would like to propose something. He then asks why not form a guild. Chet is surprised by the question. We then see the 600th floor, the headquarters of the Holy Solo Guild. A woman walks through the guild halls, saying she's annoyed. She rudely opens a door and asks what's going on to her brother Kane. Then we see Kane watching the White Devourer Guild headquarters on the 10th floor burning. Kane says he received an interesting report from the 10th floor. Then he tells Carmen that someone burned down the guild house on the 10th floor by themselves. According to the information sent by Beck Julio, it wasn't an attack from a rival guild or any other group. Carmen says that's impossible, that no matter how strong they are, the system applies severe penalties on such a low floor. Snapping his fingers, Kane says that yes, it's impossible to destroy a guild house alone after receiving all the penalties from the 10th floor. Which means the person who did this became insanely strong after climbing just 10 floors, just like they did the first time they climbed. Carmen stays silent, thinking the possibilities. Kane then says they still don't know the full potential of that person. She then asks what they'll do if, by any chance, he is as strong as they think he is. Smiling, the man says there's only one thing to do. They'll have to get rid of them the same way they did 10 years ago. He then tells her to hire a bounty hunter, a very strong one. Then we see a woman blowing the barrel of a gun. She walks after having hit a giant snake just below its head. As the snake falls dead behind her, the girl gives a slight smile. Our hero agrees with Hendrik's idea of creating a guild, but there's still something that bothers him. He still hasn't completed the mission given by Bale. He needs his name to be known throughout the entire tower before reaching floor 100, and it would be troublesome if his name and reputation ended up overshadowed by his or the guild's name. Then the dragon says he understands and asks if it's a mission from Ball. Hendrik then says the answer is simple then. He says the one who should be the guild master is him, Chijin-yuk. Our boy is shocked by the dragon's proposal. He continues saying that he has no interest in the position to begin with, and in fact doesn't have the confidence needed to do a good job in that role. Then he finishes by saying that as a fantastic necromancer, it should be natural for him to lead an army. Our boy says that, as much as he doesn't want to admit it, he is weaker than the dragon, and that if he becomes the guild leader, he'll have to give him orders too. Then he asks the dragon if he really feels comfortable taking orders from someone weaker than him. The dragon immediately falls to his knees. Then he makes a formal bow with one knee on the ground. Chip begins to ask what the hell he's doing, but he's interrupted by the dragon saying if that attitude is enough as an answer. The dragon thinks the boy has no idea of the humiliation he's already had to suffer, of how extremely furious he's been and how defeated he's already felt. The boy then says that that must mean this is nothing to him in order to achieve his revenge, and the dragon says yes, exactly. Smiling, our hero says fine, he'll gladly accept the position of guild leader so they can pursue their revenge. Hendrik says the boy made an excellent choice. Balkan then asks what the name of the guild will be. Then the boy remembers Uriel's phrase that the one who wears a strange mask will lead a revolution against the heavens. Che then says the name of the guild will be Revolution, that nothing else fits better with their goals than that. Balkan says they can create a guild now by paying a fee to the company, so our hero says they just need to talk to Puppet and they'll create one for free. The boy Halshin welcomes the Lord of the Demonic Mask. Our boy then says he forgot, but Puppet is already gone. Then he asks if the boy replaced him and he says yes. He's now the one in charge of the 10th floor branch. Then he asks why the hell Ken is there. Ken says he was wandering around while the tower was being repaired and ended up meeting Halshin, and the two of them got along and became good friends. Then Halshin asks why they're there that day. Our boy then tells Halshin he wants to create a guild. Smiling, he says all right, and that if it's a guild created by the Lord of the Demonic Mask, everyone will want to join. But he needs at least 2 people to start a guild. Then the dragon, the two-tailed fox, and Balkan enter, and the boy asks if that's enough then. Ken gets scared and shouts that it's the dragon from the city square, and Halshin, excited, asks if he managed to convince him to join his group. Cher then asks if the guild member present is some kind of celebrity, and the dragon wonders what that celebrity thing is, if it's a compliment or not. Then our boy says those aren't the only members he has, that he's sent invitations to future members. He says he'd like him to take care of the paperwork before people start arriving to join the guild. Then we see the blacksmith receiving a letter via the system's mail. Puppet is talking to someone when one of his puppets shows that it received a letter from the system. Haryu, while fighting the warrior or boss on the 10th floor, receives the letter in the middle of the battle. Golden Lich at his desk full of gold coins also receives an invitation letter. He then, opening the letter and reading it, says how interesting it is that Chijin-yuk is forming a guild. We see a finger, with energy at its tip, forming a small black flame. Soon after, our boy is using his 10-finger bullet skill, firing a blast from each tip of his 10 fingers. As the blasts head toward their targets, our boy begins using another enchantment, causing a diagram to appear in front of each of the blasts. He then uses division magic, making each of his blasts multiply, hitting countless monsters at the same time. Our boy is facing several monsters with massive holes in their bodies, with many pieces missing from having been hit by more than one blast. The dragon then asks him if he also received a mission from the nine-tailed fox, and he says yes, but he thinks the fox's mission he can finish today. The little two-tailed fox is among the corpses, eating every liver she can imagine, while the system window shows that only one is left. Our boy starts complaining that it was about time she managed to eat all the livers she needed, while the little fox swallowed the last liver required for her mission. He continued saying how tired he was of feeding the fox, while the number in the system window changed from 8 to 9. An explosion of pink energy happens among the corpses, where the little two-tailed fox was when she swallowed the last needed liver. The dragon then asks if he knows what the hell is going to happen once she finishes the mission, and our boy says the nine-tailed fox never told him. We then see a huge pink egg full of energy flowing into it. A system window from the nine-tailed fox says that she will find her true form, while our hero says it will be the nine-tailed fox. Balkan then, wide-eyed, tells our hero to look ahead. Suddenly, amidst the intense pink glow and where the energy-filled egg was, there's a human silhouette with long hair. Our boy is also wide-eyed, wondering what that could be. Then everyone sees a girl with a symbol on her forehead, and our boy says that is the true form of the little two-tailed fox. The girl flies and falls into our hero's lap, who is startled and catches her. Balkan and the dragon ask if he's okay, while Baal congratulates him, saying the child is beautiful, and the nine-tailed fox says it's only natural for her to be beautiful since she is her daughter. The little girl in his lap says pa, and our boy repeats the word, not understanding anything. She then finishes the sentence by calling him father. Cha, the dragon, Balkan, and Boyle are all surprised and wide-eyed because she called him father. Another person arrives on the scene asking why father. We then see Haryu with a face like she's about to kill one or two people, asking our hero if in the time she was gone, he had a daughter. Our hero then wonders why the girl suddenly showed up there, especially at that moment. So the video ends here. If you don't want to miss the next part, activate the notification bell, and see you next time on Tob's channel.